Hi investors, welcome to SOIC. Hope everyone is doing well. Just a second. So we are very excited for the session today because we have one of the most astute investors around who is going to present, and he's been someone that I've been following for last 3 to 4 years for different ideas as well. And I think he's been very early in a lot of small and mid cap ideas. I'll just check if he's joined. Just a second. Right, I think he has joined. Hi, am I audible?
Hi, Ishmohit.
Hi, hi. I think yeah, you're audible. Great. How are you?
I'm fine.
I think you're already the panelist. So I'll just introduce Arvind sir once. So Arvind sir is the CIO at Niveshaay, which is a which is basically research advisory. And secondly, he's been one of the most astute investors around. Right, I still remember reading his reports on KPIT, rather than global buyers. Like, and this was 1 or 2 years ago, and like he's been very early in a lot of companies, and he's someone that he's someone that we look up to at SOIC as well for basically small and mid cap ideas, and very excited to have you, sir.
Thank you so much for calling me today. A lot of my friends are also joining today, so it will be fun to talk to them also.
Nice, nice. I think we'll start in another 2-3 minutes. Let's wait for more people to join. Sir, you can share your presentation.
Yes, I'll just share. It is you have to enable the screen share.
Right. I'm just enabling it. I think now you can share.
Perfect. Is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay.
I think I'll just look at the chat box. So can every one of us welcome Arvind sir to the SOIC tribe? Just basically enter welcome in the chat box below. Just enter welcome. Right. So if you want to ask any question to the audience, you can use a chat box below. So we'll try to make the session interactive. If you have any sort of questions in between the presentation, then we can ask.
Okay, so I'm fairly, not well versed with the chat, option that I'll just try to. But if there are any questions that you guys can post even between the presentation, I think we will keep it more interactive. That's better. So I've kept the presentation short so that we finish it off maybe in half an hour, and then I'll be more interested to take your questions and maybe discuss a lot of things which you might have on your mind. That'll be better.
Great. I think after 30 minutes, we'll have a round of Q&A, and so I also have a list of questions prepared. So these are my own doubts as well. So I want to ask them as well, and we'll also take questions from the audience.
Perfect.
Right. I think so. We can start now. I'll just turn the chat box off. We can start.
We can start. Okay, great. So thank you so much, Ishmohit, for inviting me to this presentation. So I'll just first introduce what exactly we do at Niveshaay. So there are not very difficult things we do. So people sometimes tell us that sir, if you can share your strategy. So most of the times I had to say that I don't have a strategy. What should I share? The problem is that we always believe that tracking business is our strength. We visit a lot of businesses, we talk to them. There's a group of 40 to 50 entrepreneurs whom we respect a lot, and we keep then meeting them almost on a quarterly basis, right? And that's where we pick up most of the ideas that in the past we have. So I'll just share with you things that have happened to us. I'm not saying that we were purposefully looking for that, right? Because it is sometimes very you can say funny to share this in on a public forum, but most of the times we've come across luck in a way that we never imagined, right? So it is something which I guess you set a process which is very simple, and just wait for the luck to maybe hit you, and that's what we've over the years tried to do. And way back, when we go to the first mindset that we had when we set up Niveshaay, it was always that we were inspired. When I was working with industry research for 2 years, I thought there are such good industrialists in our country, that the way the institutions are presenting them when they are giving them a loan, or whether they are approaching them as an analyst, it is sometimes very cruel to talk about a quarter or 2 quarters when these people have a vision of 5-10 years. And that is when I thought that somehow whatever research is happening in India in terms of any industry research or stock research, it's so much focused towards just benefiting of a 1 or 2 years kind of a, or 3 years at max kind of a mindset, wherein we have such good talent in our country. These are people who in fact are best in class, world class in many areas, and we are just being short sighted and not doing the correct work. And hence we thought that since day one, these people are our gods, the entrepreneurs are our gods, right? So we visit them, we worship them, and we whatever we are today, we are because of them. So that's what the approach we have in Niveshaay, right? We don't believe in doing a lot of other complex stuff. We just follow them religiously. They're like our gurus most of the times. Whatever we've learned because of them. These can be investment again, so people who manage their own money, I've found them to be far better at investing than people who are managing public money. And now it will be very difficult for me to say that, because I am managing public money, right? So I will admit this, that people who are managing their own money are far better investors than when we are managing public money. And those are the people from whom we've learned, and those are the people whom we look up to also. So our over the years, our strategy has in a way been a combination of learnings from all these entrepreneurs and these people who manage their own money, and that's what the people we look up to. So the thinking the entrepreneurial way is our philosophy, simple philosophy, right? So we don't focus on whether we are a value investor or a growth investor or this investor or that investor. We simply focus that there are entrepreneurs in our country who are thinking long term, and they are like these hedgehogs. So if you've read the book from Jim Collins, he focuses on this concept very beautifully, that there are foxes in the fox style of management, and there's a hedgehog style of management. And we believe that hedgehogs are the people who might suffer in the medium term or short term, because they are not focusing on a lot of things that are going around, but are focused on a large idea which they want to change. And over the years, what we've seen with our companies, that they have done very well. There are people who stuck to their idea no matter what happened, and eventually achieved success which no one could have imagined when they were going through those things. So take for example, case in point, when we started to look at the renewable energy space, we did not find a single company in India which we could play with. Now we have a whole portfolio to play with, but then at that point of time we came across this one entrepreneur who stuck to his business, Mr. Pradeepji Kheruka. He set up Borosil way back in 2008-9, and it was not a remunerative business at all. He was struggling with the Chinese competition for almost a decade, not making any returns. In fact, in the previous decade, all glass manufacturing companies, solar glass manufacturing companies outside of China went bust. Right? There are only two companies who survived. One was in Europe, and one was Borosil Renewable of Mr. Pradeepji Kheruka. So that was what gave us a starting point, that if he has survived and stayed in the business for a decade and has done all the hard work, and if there are certain tailwinds that are favoring this sector, he would definitely take things in his stride and maybe achieve things which were not thinkable in the previous decade. And that was what had happened in China also. I mean, Genie glass and flat glass, they had started very small, but they became almost 60% of the world market within 5-6 years. So that is the kind of growth companies can have when they focus their attention on one large idea or one big theme and just go after it. So we've seen that there are a lot of these entrepreneurs who have in a way done small improvements, small changes over the years, and those changes would not have been visible in terms of earnings that much, or the criteria of a lot of financial jargons that we use. But business wise, they had been making their business far better, far stronger, far more competitive. And eventually when they came out of that phase and they started performing well financially, that was when the whole limelight, they attracted that limelight. But we sometimes, when we made the Borosil renewable report, or the HLE glass coat report, or a lot of report on a Jamna Auto, or Garware technical fibers, most of the times people did not believe what we were talking about, because they thought that it's not visible in the finances. And how could you say that this business is worth this much, or it can do certain things which you are writing about, because we cannot see it. I mean, I literally had a lot of value investors tell me कि बोरोसिल तो यार कांच का धंधा है, कांच के धंधे में इतना मार्केट कैप थोड़ी बनता है यार अरविंद, व्हाट आर यू सेइंग, चाइना में जो हो गया वो हो गया, इंडिया में ये नहीं होगा. So the point is that people don't focus on things when they are changing on ground, and then they don't update their analysis to the on ground changes, on ground improvements which entrepreneurs are doing. And that is where we believe the only moat as an organization we have. We keep on visiting these people quarter on quarter or every 6 months, and try to see what changes they've made in the business. Whether it has brought some financial success or not, that's a separate parameter. We will look at that. Definitely, that financials are something which we cannot ignore. But we keep our maximum time research analysis, and even visiting unlisted companies, right? Talking to them what they feel about the listed peers, and what are the new generation of the listed peers doing in the market. Are they efficient or not? Are they as passionate or not about the business, and things like that. So there are a lot of these qualitative things that we focus on a lot. So just for case in point, Mr. Himanshu Patel, many people would not have heard about him, but they were running a business called HLE Engineering here in South Gujarat. And HLE Engineering was a leader in your dryers and filters, and had almost 55% market share in India. Now, when they bought this company, Swiss Glass Coat, which was actually the second largest glass line manufacturer in India, glass line steel equipment manufacturer, GMM Pfaudler being the leader, people thought that these are the entrepreneurs who don't have a background in capital markets, what they will do, they didn't know about them. So people just ignored the value which Himanshu Patel and their family brought to the table. But it was something which if someone would have read the history about this family, and which I will talk later in discussion also, they would have been crazy not to buy the company, right? Because Swiss Glass Coat had a market cap of 150 crores. These guys bought the business at around 95, 96 crores, and they reverse merged their business, which would have a private market value of around 150 crores, at a lesser valuation in the company, giving the benefit to the minority shareholders so that they don't complain. And here the company's combined market cap was still 200 crores post the reverse merger. And we were scratching our heads that what the market is thinking, or whether we are wrong or the market is wrong, we don't know. But we want to venture out with these entrepreneurs. And I was very lucky because I knew Alap Patel and family. So Mr. Alap Patel, who's Himanshu Patel's brother's son, Mr. Nilesh Patel's son, luckily he was a friend since long time, and he was my cousin's classmate, and I knew about the background of the family. So I'm not saying that I did it intelligently. There was luck also that favored me, because I knew about the background, and then I went into more detail, and I found a lot of things which I was more excited about. But if someone would have simply given a month of research, not saying that you put in 1 year, 2 years of research, just a month on research, taken out certain financials of the HLE Engineering Group, which was a privately listed company then, and would have looked at how they had grown the profitability in that enterprise, and how they got market leadership, and even the second best player did not even have 5% market share. In fact, in dryers and filters, they were making equipments which were the best in the world, right? Not just best in India. And that is where we believe these are the people who are the hedgehogs, who have been focusing so minutely on certain products, and have been continuously improving the process so better in such a better way that they become the leaders. And that is when we believe when they get an opportunity to make financial returns also, the market caps just swell. And people just question that what happened in HLE, that it became a 50 bagger in just 2 years. It was just not those 2 years. It was a far, far higher history, which the continuous improvement process brought. And on the table, when they merged with Swiss Glasscoat, the capabilities that got combined created that magic, right? So I'm just sharing these two examples because these are recent. But we have seen this in the past, that whenever we found these driven entrepreneurs, and whenever we've kind of connected the dots, we have been able to find these multi-baggers, and we are ready to wait out. We don't go out in the market to find multi-baggers. We just go out in the market to keep on meeting these driven entrepreneurs, to keep on talking about what their business opportunities are, how they're expanding, what they're doing. And one fine day something clicks. We never know what will click, right? So that's a downside of our strategy, that sometimes we don't have any good idea to invest, but then we only invest when we have an idea which we're very focused on. So I guess this is very simple. Most of the people might have heard about these concepts. So our entrepreneurship, you can say, study that we do, we try to find out people who are focusing on these matrices, where they are best in the world or best in what they do. They're deeply passionate about that, and they find an economic engine which can drive. So the combination of three, which creates the hedgehog, kind of approach which Jim Collins talks about in his book. And that is where, when you get the central vision rather than being distributed about your vision, is where large changes are happening. And we are focused on these kind of companies. So role of luck, while passionately following hedgehogs. So as I was discussing, we keep on doing this, right? And we have 7 driven people in our own organization, which are like me. They want to just meet people, want to just find people who are so passionate, and just keep on talking to them. And someday it happens that luck strikes us, right? So it is something which is very, very difficult to explain in words. But what I'll tell you is that it's like actually Glasscoat, when we met the management, and because Alap was a friend, I knew about their family's background since many years also. I was not concerned about their focus on the business. What I was only concerned was that they are entering capital markets, and what criteria they had, or what mindset they had when they entered the capital markets. And when I heard their family philosophy about entering into the capital markets, I was very much sure that these people are here for the longer term, and they will create value for the entrepreneurs, business value for themselves, and as well as for their investors. Business might go up and down sometimes, but if your focus is correct. And meanwhile, we had this huge return that we were seeing in our chemical parts of the portfolio, right? So we had seen what money a Deepak Nitrite had made, or a lot of chemical companies that we were holding at that point of time had made, because that was a call that we took when we visited China way back in 2014-15. And we saw a lot of chemical complexes over there, how they were facing some pollution issues. And 2016 was a very important year, because at that point of time, China started talking about the winter cuts and things like that. And we could see a lot of chemical entrepreneurs over here being very excited about their business. And whenever we were talking, all had capacities which were underutilized at that point of time, because they had put up capacity many years ago, and they couldn't compete with China. But when we saw that profit pools and the capacity utilization were going up, they definitely had to expand, right? And GMM Fodler was a company that we were tracking since 2013. And since Glasscoat, because it was a competitor, we were also tracking. We were not interested because the company was not growing. But one fine day, I go to an AGM, in 2016 to HLE, to Swiss Glasscoat. The name was Swiss Glasscoat then. And I find Mr. Alap Patel conducting the AGM. I was so ignorant that I didn't even track the news that Swiss Glasscoat had been acquired by the Patel family. And that was a moment that it struck my mind that what had happened. I was clicking his photographs, sending to my cousin. Alap clicked my photographs, he sent it to my cousin, that what Arvind is doing the AGM. And it was something that I got excited at that very moment on that AGM day. And post that, we started to dig deep into the financials of the unlisted company, which was actually engineering, and found out how their product was having complete synergy with this new product. Because if an Aarti Industry or a Atul Limited or any chemical giant wants to do a capex, 30% of the plant and equipment requirement is actually dryer, filter, and glass line equipment. So you cannot expand if you don't have a company like HLE Glasscoat supplying you materials, because in glass line equipment they were the second largest, having 25% market share at that point of time, and in dryers and filters they were the leaders, in fact 55% market share. In fact, any API players or Divi's laboratories or all these people in pharma also, they couldn't do without the glass line equipments. And we thought that because the earlier promoter, which was the Amin family, they had succession issues. They had two daughters and both of them had settled in the US, and he always wanted to sell the business, so the growth hadn't happened. But these were people who were hungry for growth. I mean, Alap, I knew that he had made in his earlier factory a lot of changes after coming back from his studies, that on shop floor they had patented processes which no one in the industry was doing already with dryers and filters. If that could have been replicated in glass-line equipment, it meant two or three things. One, Swiss Glasscoat was a lesser efficient company than GMM because its, you can say, margins were less. So I was very sure that with this Patel family at the helm of affairs, they will reduce a lot of inefficiencies. They will definitely, if not the best, but at least comparable to the best in the industry. And if that happens, then the margins would go up, and second, they will definitely go after winning more market, because they already had a client base. Whoever was the largest chemical guy in the market, whether it's an Aarti or Atul, whoever, or a Deepak Nitrate, they were buying at least dryers and filters from the HLE group. So for them to cross sell a glass line equipment was not tough. And interestingly, what happened in 2019 was that the group announced a reverse merger, and they told that we were merging this bigger company, HLE Engineering, which was their own private limited company, with this company. And that was the time our minds just got blown away, because that business was an unlisted business, but was a fantastic business to own. And when it happened, I mean, if we didn't act, then in Warren Buffett's terminology, we would have been just sucking our thumb. And we took the allocation of a single stock to 20% in our portfolio. And then for 8 months, we just kept on buying, because this was an illiquid stock and we just couldn't find the quantity that we wanted to buy. And there was there was a foreign investor whose 7-8% was locked because his due diligence was not done, and we just couldn't find the stock whenever we tried. And the promoters knew, they were full with energy, they didn't want to sell out any stock at that market cap levels. So the point is that the market cap went up to maybe 300 crores, but the point is that if someone would have looked at the business, the combined business was at least worth 800 to 1,000 crores. I don't, give any claim that we thought it would become a 7, 8, 10,000 crores business. It became a 9,000 crore company. That is something we never imagined. But at least it was a 1,000 crore business. That was what our mindset was at that point of time. But as and when we saw the synergies emerge, we saw the numbers come, we saw the kind of investors got interested, we thought that now it will be at least a 2,500 crores company. And hence we kept on buying and buying. And we try to convince a lot of investors with our thing. And the moment some people were starting to get interested, COVID hit us, right? And in COVID, a very important thing happened, that there was a renewed focus to maybe pharma, and hence their business did not stall, right? And when their quarterly numbers started surprising investors, Malabar Fund got interested, and the only report written on HLE Glasscoat was ours. So they contacted us that if we can connect them to the promoters, and here are the promoters, because they were new to the capital markets, they didn't know who Malabar guys are. And hence it was very difficult to convince them that, at least talk to these people, these are good people and they can give growth capital and things like that. Meanwhile, the company's market cap had swelled to around 1,000 crores. And Malabar decided to infuse money at around 1,300 crores or 1,400 crores valuation, around giving 100 crores for capex to them to grow. Just imagine, here is a company who had a combined market cap of around 100, 150 crores, getting 100 crores of growth capital by just diluting 7-8% of equity. So that's the kind of, you can say, advantage you get if you're focused on the your business, your quality of your business, and try doing that again and again for multiple years. And here's a reference which actually struck my mind. And one day I was again, so I follow a lot of investors, and Buffett in one of his letters had praised Mrs. B. I don't know how many of you know Mrs. B from Nebraska Furniture Mart. He told that once when he visited, and the focus that Mrs. B had on her business, she was actually a refugee who had come to the US, and she brought, for the first time when she accumulated $5,000, she started a business, and she didn't knew any English language. She had all odds against her, but that $5,000 she deployed in a furniture business, which became one of the largest furniture mart in the US itself, the Nebraska Furniture Mart, which Buffett bought later. So Buffett shared a very important, you can say, incident when he visited. Mrs. B invited him for dinner one day, and when he visited Mrs. B's home, he was surprised to see that in her home, all the furniture had those price tags. She wanted to have the same atmosphere at home what she was having in her office. That is the kind of passion these hedgehogs have, these kind of single-minded focused people have. And the similar thing was with HLE glass code promoters, because if someone visits their home, these are people who have a lot of, you can say, passion about engineering, and their house is an engineering marvel, because they have a lot of patents in their name, or how their flush in the bathroom should work. Their walls are slanted so that the dust doesn't accumulate. I mean, it is something which will blow your mind. And that is what I could relate to, that and that's a luck that happened to me again. I'm reiterating that point, because that was what I could see. Maybe the market couldn't see, because they didn't get an opportunity to know these people so closely. But with the advent of technology, and with so many things, tools available to you, I'll encourage younger people to rather focus on meeting entrepreneurs, knowing their story, knowing what they are made of, what they did in a bad cycle, what they're trying to do during the good cycles, and judge their character, because that is what will be tested again and again in the market. Bull markets can come and go, things can happen good, things can happen bad, but if you're with good promoters, you'd be far better off every decade if you calculate your net worth. So that's what was a very striking comparison that I wanted to share about. Again, Borosil Renewables, I guess this thing has been in the Twitter, so everyone knows about Borosil Renewables story, because again, ours was the first note on Borosil Renewables, and had got a lot of shares on the Twitter handles and on our blog. So I'll not stretch this story again a whole lot, but when I was visiting my friend who was manufacturing solar glass, manufacturing solar modules 4 years ago, he told me that they were looking if someone can set up a glass business in India, solar glass business in India, because they were not happy with the quality of Borosil Renewables, and they had to completely be dependent on the imported solar glass. And we just tried to research on what Borosil Renewable does, and we tried to research what is happening in China, and we just put aside this idea, because they couldn't compete with the Chinese at all, because the point was that at prices which China was dumping glass into India at 100 rupees per square feet, that was something which was making 25% margins for them, and Borosil couldn't even make 2% margin on those kind of prices. So it was just a business that we thought is interesting, but we kept it aside, because it had breakage issues which reduced their profit margins. It couldn't compete with the Chinese, and that was done and dusted with. But we kept the track of business, right? Every time when I visited my friend, every 6-8 months, because we were looking at something in the green energy space, because we thought that there's a huge opportunity, but no money had been made in the Indian capital markets by betting on green energy companies. So one day he shared a very interesting thing with me, that the Borosil guys in 2018 end, they had decided to go for a refurbishment of their older plant, and hence we got interested and we started tracking it more closely. And in 2019 they completed their project, wherein the old plant was refurbished, and the new plant also they had put. So they had just 180 ton capacity, which they recalibrated to 230 tons, and they put up a new furnace of 250 tons. So the cumulative capacity went up to 480 tons, which was just 180 tons few years ago. So we thought that, if they can use this operating leverage and the breakage can be reduced, at least their margins could go to 10%. And when we talked to this friend of mine, he told me that yes, there are breakage issues which have been resolved, and there are they're aggressive in the business, and they are trying to push their product better than earlier cycles, because previously their approach was that we are the only manufacturers, जो भी import करने से रह जाएगा आप लोग मेरे पास ही आने वाले हो. तो they were just focused on that part of a thing, because they thought that they couldn't compete with China. But in 2018 something made them believe that we could compete with China, and this is the time to expand. And they expanded when there was nothing in the industry that the Chinese glass pricing were going up or things like that. There was only one positive thing, that in 17 itself, China had told the Chinese glass companies to not expand any further because of the pollution that glass industry has, because most of the plants were fired by coal-fired plants, and glass is a very energy-intensive business. And that was when maybe the Kerukas got into the growth mode, and they tried to maybe expand the plant. And COVID completely changed the game for them, because in August of 2020, right, when we first started visiting people again, see, COVID was a very difficult time for us, because we thought our oxygen or our blood had been sucked out, because we thrived on meeting these entrepreneurs, we thrived on going to them, and that was not possible for 3-4 months at least. But then we started visiting again, taking whatever entrepreneurs who could maybe agree at that point of time. And my friend agreed. When we visited him, he told me that the imported glass prices had almost doubled in the market. And no one in the industry, or no one on the con call of Borosil, was even discussing that. We thought it was so crazy that someone could have easily verified that fact if they made a visit to any glass module solar module manufacturer. And there are solar module manufacturers which are in plenty in India, right? So that was something which was a starting point. And when we analyzed that, how the breakage reduction improved the margins, and now the price. So just imagine, if 100 rupees price, the cost was 90, they were making a 10% margin, 10 rupee margin, gross margin, right? Now the price of the glass had gone to 200, but there was no incremental cost, right? The caustic soda price hadn't changed, no silica cost price has changed, so the cost still remains 90, right? So the margins, they deliver 110 by selling the 200 rupee product, right? So it is a 10x contribution to the gross profit, which is something which, if you do the math, it will just blow off your mind that how the financials would look like when a full year of this earnings. So we definitely thought that the prices are not sustainable, but at least the margins would be better than what they were there in the previous cycle. And again, luck came our way. Government imposed an anti-dumping duty on imported glass from Malaysia, and that helped them improve their realization. They got growth capital from long-term investors, and they announced a further capex, which in a way, made sure that now this company would be 1,000-ton company. So we did some simple analysis that in China, people had glass making capacities of 15 to 20,000 tons, and their market caps were in excess of 1 lakh crores. And here we had a company in India just having a market cap of 400-500 crores. And that was the capital, in fact, that they had put in way back in 2010. And over the years, they had survived the Chinese onslaught. And now with the duties in place, now with the efficiencies in place, and 3x expansion that they did, we believed at least this company should be worth 1,500 crores. Again, the starting point, we were not sure that this is a 10,000 crore company. हमको लगा 15 से 2,000 करोड़ की कंपनी तो होनी चाहिए. मार्केट इसको ये वैल्यू नहीं दे रहा. मार्केट इज क्रेजी. इवन द ग्लास प्राइसेस आर गोइंग अप. तो हमारे पास शॉर्ट टर्म में ये भी एक अच्छा टेलविंड है, जहां पे अच्छा रेवेन्यू अगर ये कमा लेगा तो इसको एक्सपेंशन के लिए पैसे मिल जाएंगे. दैट वाज द थॉट प्रोसेस व्हिच वी स्टार्टेड. But the more we started to dig into the Chinese companies, the the overall problems that they were facing, because glass was short supply in China. In fact, a lot of importers, glass importers that we were talking to, they said that the Chinese counterparts had stopped attending their calls. They're saying we're not interested in India business at all. And that is the point that we thought, that once you disturb your supply chain, and in terms in need, when you do these kind of behavior with your business partners, that has longer term ramifications, right? the glass business in India for a long term had changed, because now the domestic module manufacturers had made their mindset that priority will give to a domestic guy, and if we are not able to fulfill, then only we'll go to the imported guy. And that was what had fundamentally changed into the business, that couldn't be measured by any financial metrics, right? That couldn't be measured. I couldn't explain it to anyone that when the numbers would come. But I had that moment when I realized that the glass business had changed, and it had now become a eventually 4-5 thousand crore kind of a business. Again, our focus was still there. Eventually the company became 7-8 thousand crores, right? And now also, right, we hold a good quantity of stock in a portfolio, because our mindset, when we look at the Chinese companies, there's market caps. If we have a player in India which can focus on 4 to 5 thousand, you can say, tons capacity in India, we can also have a 20-25 thousand tons, 1,000 crores company in India of glass, right? Maybe we not have 1 lakh crore glass company in India, but 20-25 thousand crores is not difficult, right? So these are the things that we focus more on. There'll be quarters where there'll be, cost price inflations. There'll be quarters where, China would again start dumping. There'll be quarters when there'll be a lot of issues which people or markets would be focused on, and that's what our concern. We focus on the longer term picture is what we believe. And hence, these kind of, so second order thinking, again, we try to play it safe. Sometimes when these are large growing trends, we try to build in safety by playing a peripheral story. What do you mean by a peripheral story? That if people are saying EV badega, so we, no, don't buy a company who's launching maybe 2 wheelers or 4 wheelers. We believe in doing the whole supply chain analysis and trying to find out a component whose sales will increase and has a higher market dominance, and which will be able to win because of the volumes generator, rather than launching products or being at the at the standing point of the technology brand. Because if you're standing right up front of the technology wave, you'd be thrown out. The technology can change and your business can be completely disturbed. So a company, again to just give an example, and I'll be right up front, these are not tips. We don't believe in sharing any recommendations. You should consult your financial advisor before doing any trades on that. But the point is, we are discussing for the sake of explaining our strategy better, that how at Niveshaay we plan things. And I'll just discuss 1 or 2 things more, and then we'll later the floor open for questions. Is that a company like Shivalik Bimetal, I guess most of us would not have heard about. But this company was doing a very simple product which is known as a shunt resistor. Now, a shunt resistor is a small component which is required in the battery management system. But interestingly, this company was the only company in India which was making shunt resistors, and perhaps the only 4 and 5 companies in the world who had the critical scale to make the technical shunt resisting capacity, capabilities that these big giants in EV wanted. So, and if you look at this company, over the years, they were in technologies where they were, earlier facing some problems, and they completely went out from those businesses and started new lines. So, cathode ray tube, for example, went out, and they were very quick in maybe shifting to bimetal strips, and from bimetal strips now they're shifting towards shunt resistor. So even bimetal strip has a stable business, but shunt resistor is a more important business that we're focusing on. So any battery management system company you talk about, they're talking about a CAGR of 20-25-30%, and no one is wanting to make this simple small product, because you require so the cost of manufacturing with a shunt resistor, which Shivalik can give, is probably 75 cents or $1, right? 50-60 रुपए में ये बना लेता है, और उतनी बड़ी कैपेबिलिटी है उसके पास तो बना सकते हैं, नहीं तो वो सेम कॉस्ट प्रोडक्ट आपको 300-400 रुपए का पड़ेगा अगर आपके पास स्केल ना हो। तो इस बिजनेस में आपको स्केल चाहिए, and that scale, when it started expanding, and now it is on track to almost go 3x its expansion with a very small capex. And that is where these technical products become big if they get the market trust. And if you look at the revenues, that is clearly visible that bimetal strips, which was almost 90% of the revenue, way back in 2014-15, has now fallen down to 50%. And shunt resistors, which is the high growing business, has gone up to 50% of the business. and you talk to any you can say a global giant, everyone is like, the global hybrid and EV market is going by 4, 5, 10x in the coming 5, 7, 10 years. So it was not, so we just did a plain simple analysis of the market, how it is going to grow, and we found this stock which is in a product, right, which was very critical for the battery management system to run, because in a battery management system the shunt resistor regulates the electricity flow, right? So you in a battery management system, you don't want the vehicle to get more electricity, at the same time you don't want the vehicle to get lesser electricity for the performance, right? So shunt resistor exactly does that thing. It regulates the flow so that it's not overpowered and it's not underpowered, right? And as I told, 90% market share in India. In fact, it was winning clients abroad. Vishay was a very critical client. And in this business, it takes 4 to 5 years to get your product approval. And Vishay became its client. That was a very interesting moment for us, because now it had a great export opportunity, and 2 or 3 more people had signed up, which were giving them testing quantities till the product could go for mass production. So now those 2 clients mature. So what is happening is that every 2, 3 years, this guy would have three, four clients who will mature with them by testing the product, and they can keep on expanding their line and supplying to them. So the growth in this business is far easy to have a vision of, rather than I getting a vision whether Ola Electric would be a winner, right? Or I getting a vision, or whether XYZ Maruti would be able to drive the EV wave or not, or would get disrupted, or things like that. There's so much debate. It depends on so much factors which are beyond our control. But shunt resistor depends or thrives on whoever is the market winner. Shunt resistor would be required, and these are only 4, 5 companies in the world, and this company from India has won clients abroad. Its quality has been tested, is winning more clients. The cost is such that most of the people would want a bulk manufacturer, and hence they don't even look at sometimes negotiating with them, because if they go to a low volume manufacturer, the cost difference would be huge. So whatever cost increases they have in their product are easily passed on, because it's a very small item in the battery management system. 100 rupees doesn't matter at all, right? 50, 60, 70 rupees doesn't matter at all. It's a perfect proxy play, that we found out, and it had large potential in terms of export revenues. It was growing at a brisk pace, and people were again focusing on छोटा सा business है, छोटा market cap है, क्या करेगा company, promoters, management, salary ज़्यादा रहते हैं. See, I don't say that we don't look at on those parameters. We do look, but sometimes we become comfortable with that if we're comfortable with the business in the longer term. Unless there is a large scale corporate governance issue, we don't believe in because we've had experiences in the past where we have seen that making a fixed mind that if these are the red flags, you should not just look at the company and not look at the business at all. We keep our options open, we keep on tracking it, and the day we realize that the business is achieving critical scale, we believe that the numbers would be so huge that the markets would look at it in a different way, and then the company would definitely get those valuations. So again, it is expanding its capacity. So I'll just run through them. If there are specific questions, we'll come back again, but I've discussed it again. See, textile. So again, I belong to a city called Surat, and in fact, a small town, Rajasthan, in Rajasthan, a small town, Jaisalmer, where my grandfathers were, and I also was born over there. Our business was textile, and that gives us a bit of, you can say, tracking history of textiles. But when we started tracking it for our investors, and released a report last year, people were saying it's a most traditional business. Why are you talking about textile? Textile में कभी पैसे नहीं बनता है. ये 19th century का business है, अभी नहीं चलेगा, right? But we were not talking about traditional textile. What we were focusing on trends which we were observing, that in the whole manufacturing process, India had achieved critical you can say market share in the spinning side of the yarn business and in cotton textiles, right? Home textiles, in fact, in bed sheets in US, India had achieved almost 50% market share, and that was huge, right? And people were ignoring that. And post pandemic, when we were buying a company called Indocount, people were asking, why this company doesn't have a good history, this, that, ye, wo, textile ka dhanda. But it had achieved a critical mass that it had become a leader supplier to Walmarts and other big box retailers in the US, and it was having tailwinds, which we believe post COVID, because home became a center of your activities, and things at that side definitely had a better market, and these companies over there were actually facing higher demand. And when we confirmed this with few of the friends in the US, they actually said that the demand is good for these products, and made in India products are getting visible more on the shelves. That's what inspired us. And then we looked at the whole value chain, and now we are betting on the apparel side of the market, right? So we started with home textile, but now for the coming 5-7 years we are more bullish on the apparel side. Spinners, in fact, they are expanding, and that was a play of, you can say, low margin to high margin and capex, which will still happen in 2-3 years. But spinning would be a business which I want to sell in 2-3 years. So in our report, if again on our blog someone would have read, so we covered this whole textile report and all value chains, and how to play spinning, how to play home textile, how to play, you can say, your apparels. But I'm more focused now towards apparel, and spinning would be maybe a couple of years more, or a story which we believe then the capex would be such that the margins might come down. But the point is that when we are thinking that a sector is not profitable at all, and we close or shut our mind, that is where I believe we make a mistake of ignoring these companies, which in a way, if luck favors you, become multi-baggers because no one is looking at them, right? So when people were looking at these high-flying tech companies and all, we also had few companies like the EV play in a KPIT or what. But then we focused that in India, if manufacturing is to change, there is one branch of manufacturing which we had a large market for, which was textiles, right? We had a lot of ancillary industries related to textile in our country itself, right up from ginning, spinning to end garment making, dyeing, printing, embroidery, everything. So when you have a large market like this, and people want to shift business from China to elsewhere, and that business had already shifted to a Vietnam and Bangladesh in the previous decade. And here we had Bangladesh struggling with orders, Vietnam struggling with wages. There was one country which came out as an alternative, was ours, right? I don't think there's another country which has such a large base of textile, right from cotton growing to and product apparel making. And Bangladesh, in fact, or other countries, or Sri Lanka or Pakistan, they buy the fabrics from either India or China, right? So they don't have the chain which is there. So it was, in a way, if you look at chemicals way back in 2015-16, it was a lot of chemicals. Their ancillaries had come up in India, and there was a good market for them in domestic. And then they became a global, you can say, supplier. And that was where we believe are having a large domestic market hedge. And what happened in chemical, again, at that time, commoditized, low capacity utilization, low ROE businesses. Who would touch them? No one was touching them, right? So over the years, what we've believed is that if there are business tailwinds which are visible, it will take at least 2 years for the financial numbers to come. But that is where our bulk of you can say focus is on. And again, when we met Mr. Sundarajan, SP Apparels in Coimbatore, I mean, we were just blown away by his focus. He is into the business of kids garmenting since almost 30-35 years. And that man had brought the hostel facility from China. He was the first one, in fact, to bring the hostel facility in which textile workers can work in double shift to India. And in kids garment, in fact, getting approvals is so tough. And it has a moat, if you understand, because less than 2 years kids in UK or in the European nations, if there is a small needle or a small thread which is itching, you can have cases which can run into multiple crores. So getting an approval process, in fact, takes 3 to 4 years of your time to be listed with these large retailers over there. And SP for many years had done that. In fact, its rejection rate is just 0.1%, which is the best in Asia, right? No other garmenting or other company in child kids garment has such rejection rates. And what has happened that when we understood from Mr. Sundarajan sir that why they are facing such high business inquiries is that Tesco or Primark, which were their clients, earlier they had these 50 people from where they wanted to source their garments, right? Because they thought that they should diversify, and these people should not be able to be very dominant. But that focus had changed because all these retailers, now wanted to focus on reducing cost, right? And when they are focusing on reducing cost, they are shrinking their purchase departments. And they're saying that the purchase departments are now relying on data more rather than going, meeting people, testing samples, doing all these things which humans are involved with, rather than focusing on data. And data said that SP has lower rejection, SP has, a good product turnaround ratio, because SP takes raw cotton, spins it itself, does all the embroidery stuff or all the printing, dyeing, everything in house, and converts it into a garment, has metal detectors which checks whether there's a needle there or not, or cutting, finishing, everything, and is dispatched. So see, for Bangladesh, they will have to use that the supply chain is longer than SP as it is, because they'll have to buy fabric, then convert it, and then sell again. So they use the port a couple of times, right? SP has to use the port only once. And in a scenario where we are seeing the port delays, SP becomes a natural choice because of two reasons. A, cost inflation, because it has end-to-end integration. B, because there is so much delay in other manufacturers. Its business model right fits in right into the minds of these big retailers. And we have a 10% disadvantage in India, because Bangladesh has a free trade agreement, and we are charged 10% duty when our garments go. Still, SP has now become almost 70 to 80% supplier of the overall requirement of few of these retailers in the UK. So that's the strength of that business, that having a 10% advantage is also doing that. Just imagine, people are talking about, in fact, our textile minister is talking about that we are talking about an FTA for India. And even if we don't get, as it is, the FTAs of Bangladesh and Pakistan are going to expire by 2024-25. So at least a year earlier, people over there would start diversifying their purchases, and that is where a guy like and the business of SP, now with the hostel facility in place, it has 5,100 machines, right? And with this capability, if it is able to work in double shift, which they are guiding to, they can increase their turnover by at least 60-70% without doing capex. And market loves companies which are making free cash flows, right? Because they don't have to do any capex, and still they'll be able to increase their sales, because the same machines are being utilized only on another shift. So I guess I've taken a lot of your time. I just skipped through all of these, and now let's come to questions, I guess, which is more important. I just want to share this last slide. These are the investors we respect. We meet them, try to meet them every quarterly, and these are, our heroes, who have taught us a lot. And the entrepreneurs in the beginning, again, they are the real heroes, which teach us so many things a lot of times. So that was it. Thank you so much. I guess I took a lot of your time while discussing these things, but yeah, I'm ready to go for questions, whatever you have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I think it was enlightening as well. So I'll just open the chat box once, and can we just drop a wow for Arvind sir, because I thought it was a wonderful presentation. So, right. You can see the chat box, Arvind sir. It's beneath.
Yeah, I just opened it.
Right. So more than 500 people are attending. So this is one of our highest attending webinar. So
wow, fantastic.
Presentation was also extremely interesting. Right.
Perfect.
I personally have a list of questions prepared. So before we take
please.
questions from the audience, so we'll take live questions from the audience. So before we take questions from the audience, so I have personally 15 to 20 questions which I wanted to ask. So the first question is that what is the role of tailwinds and headwinds in winning or losing ideas?
So, it is very important, because I'll tell you that, see, we are financial investors. We, no matter, as I told you, entrepreneurs way, we cannot, stay for 20 years in a company, right? So our process is that we focus on these good entrepreneurs and try to wait for how the tailwinds are going to, maybe hit them positively. Because as it is, their business gets stronger over time, even if they're facing headwinds, because they're winning, if they're efficient, they're winning market share from the competitors, right? But if the sector is not in flavor, it will not look into financials, right? So we try to take the first positions whenever the tailwinds start or the headwinds start to turn into tailwinds, unless it's a cyclical. See, if it's a cyclical, then you cannot wait for the tailwinds to come, because then the prices would be so high that in a cyclical you'll have to buy it at low, and you have to sell it at a high price. So in cyclicals we try to prejudge that let's not wait for the tailwinds, because the valuation is so low कि इतने में टाटा स्टील क्या ही घोटा है, वैसा हो जाता है वहां पे. तो वहां पे तो आपको हेडविंड्स के समय आ गई तो आप खरीद ही नहीं पाओगे उस वैल्यूएशन पे, ठीक है. बट इन अ लॉट ऑफ बिजनेस which have much more stable demand and much more stable margins, I have seen that even if you wait for those tailwinds to come, the market caps don't go very high. So ठीक है, आपको 100 की चीज 130 में भी खरीदनी पड़ेगी, but at least you become more sure when the tailwinds are hitting the company, and you can maybe build up your position. But that's how you can maybe take your call based on what kind of company it is. And cyclicals you have to buy when the headwinds are there, and other companies try to buy when the tailwinds are favoring.
Right. So linked to this question, so like I have personally looked at Shivalik biometals way back in 2018 to 2019 cycle, and I still remember like there was 2 or 3 quarters of softness, and the stock fell by almost 80 to 85%, if I'm not mistaken. So
I'm sorry, Shmohit, your voice is breaking a bit.
Right. Just a second. Right. Am I audible now? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Audible now.
Right. I'll just change the internet connection. I think it will just take it will just take 20 to 30 seconds. I'll just change the internet.
Yeah.
Right. Am I audible now?
It's yes, better. You are. Better.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Great. So one more question linked to this is that so especially when it comes to smaller micro cap investing, so whenever there is 2 or 3 quarters of headwind, so like we've seen this happen in Shivalik Biometal way back in 2019, 2020. So actually I have looked at this company very closely.
Correct.
In 3 quarters of softness, the stock fell by almost 80 to 85%.
Correct.
So in such scenarios, how are you able to remain calm, or how are you able to trust the entrepreneur, or what is the role of portfolio allocation or your portfolio construction approach that comes into play in such companies or in such type of investing?
It is very tough. It's a wonderful question, and it's very tough. So in 2018, maybe post April, what was happening in the market was completely crazy, and we were, you can say, many a time just in a piece of a shock that how can such valuations be there. And that is where having so you can still see, if you know the business, if you're meeting them, you can still hold on to your emotions, but your investors won't, right? Those are the times, and that's where we've understood that having entrepreneurs as your investors is the best thing, because if you tell them a story about what is happening in the business, what market cap it was having, what market cap it has, what type of business it is doing, and this is a valuation where we should put maybe 1 crore more in a single stock maybe, and they're ready, right? In fact, people like Mr. Vivek ji of Action Group, or these people, right? They are those kind of entrepreneurs who will understand the business and act according to what the business is doing rather than what the prices are doing, right? So we in fact go on a different mode, right? When we have these kind of valuations, rather than having a balanced portfolio approach, we go overboard in ideas which we are more bullish on and just cut out wherever. So we've sold a lot of stuff in 2018-19. Wherever the conviction was small, we just went more you can say concentrated, because we thought that these are the businesses which there are lesser chances that we are going wrong. Maybe market valuation is telling something else, but if the tide turns in the sentiment, these were be the businesses which will be recovering fast. We sold a lot of positions to buy an HLE. Shivalik, in fact, we bought a bit late because we were also, because it's a very small company, which, you know, a lot of information was not available. Those promoters don't meet, very difficult to go through their plant. They don't allow a plant visit. They say there's a technical process which we will not allow. So there, the information that we could have liked to our understanding was not there. Hence, in that type of business, I would have also sold. Luckily, I was not in Shivalik that point of time, but I'm being very, very honest. If I had Shivalik at that point of my time in my portfolio, I would have sold it, because I couldn't get a handle on the promoters, couldn't get a handle on the business, couldn't get a handle on, you know, whether they'll be surviving, this route or not. Because times were such where, you know, liquidity was frozen in our country. Yes, bank things kind of. So I could imagine, and I can understand your question, that would have been a very difficult phase in a company called like Shivalik. But in a company like HLE, I would have definitely stayed and in fact bettered my allocation, because I knew what was happening. I knew the promoters very well. I knew what tailwinds were, and the even Deepak Nitrite for that matter, it didn't move.
Right.
And you were seeing how, you know, it's sales were going up, margins were becoming better, and you knew that market is doing some crazy stuff. It was visible across a lot of businesses. होता क्या है, बुल मार्केट में आप एम्फेटिकली अपने इन्वेस्टर को बोल पाते हो, उस समय आप कितना भी अपनी वॉइस में जोश लाने की तो इन्वेस्टर वो सेंटिमेंट में नहीं होता है, और कहीं ना कहीं आपको भी, द प्राइसेस, ब्रिंग यू इनटू. सो हम अभी अगर 100% अभी बुलिश बात करते तो अपन भी एक तो 70-80% ही बुलिश हो पाते हैं बाद में. एंड माइंडसेट भी तो होता ही है कि लीस्ट अमाउंट ऑफ कैपिटल इज डिप्लॉयड इन दोस फेजेस when highest amount of capital should be deployed. But that is how the nature of investors is, and you cannot control it yourself. Then why should you expect investors to control it? So yeah, that is a very difficult thing in micro caps or small caps to do. But I trust me, if you found a business that you are tracking the entrepreneur, you know the business well, you would be very happy riding the down cycle, because that'll be something will create more wealth for you rather than a bull market.
I think this reminds me of a funny story. So I think 2017-18 mein, I basically manage my own family office. So we have a dud property, which is not moving only. So उस time पे bear market चली थी mid and small caps में, तो I suggested my father कि इसको sell off करके let's put the money in stock market. And then he didn't agree with me, but recently only in 2021 he's like बोलते तो उसको देते हैं उसको.
उस समय बोले जो अपन ने लिया वही 40% डाउन है. अभी और कहां से? So perfect. I mean, it's very difficult to, but I could convince few people, and I feel that they've become that 30-40 people who at that point of time put the money. They've become like a closed unit now. And these are all entrepreneurs in their own respect. They are huge people, right? So they, in a way, showed that kind of, and that was just 20-30% of the people whom I knew, right? So that always happens.
So while running an advisory, what is the role of or what is the importance of attracting the right set of clients? Because that is a very big role that plays in your own peace of mind and your ability to do independent research as well, that you're not getting pressurized every day.
It's a brilliant question again, Ishmohit, and I'm saying that it cannot have a better context, because just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was sitting with my team and I was just running through. So we do one thing that, market में कोई multi bagger हुआ, हमने पकड़ा तो नहीं, किसी ने भी पकड़ा, क्यों हुआ, ऐसे हम लोग डिस्कस करते हैं. और हमने भी जो लिया उसमें से क्या सक्सेस हुआ, क्या फेलियर हुआ. So again, we've discussed 4 successes. There have been many failures. ठीक है, companies which have maybe fallen 50, 60, 70% and we've exited. So वो भी होता है. तो हमने यही देखा कि there is a striking thing between the winners. In fact 80% of our winners was an idea that we borrowed from these clients who were our you can say client entrepreneurs who were our clients. Right. Because I'm visiting Mr. Vineet Mittal of Navita Solar or Borosil Renewable, उनसे मिला. Again मैं विवेक जी से मिल रहा हूँ, तो मेरे को ग्रीन पैनल की कहानी वहां से सुनाई दे रही है. तो it is something which the group, and I'll say this, it's peace of mind के लिए तो बहुत important है as a person to grow. When you have such good circle, you definitely are getting, and I say this to my team, that no matter what happens in the market, I'm not saying I'll outperform the market. our returns would be different than the market. ये है, भले हम आउट परफॉर्म करेंगे कि अंडर परफॉर्म करेंगे वो नहीं पता, बट कोई सीधी लकीर बता के मुझे बोले कि निफ्टी यहाँ थी 2 साल में, आपका क्या है, हमारा अलग ही होगा। हम या तो एकदम नीचे होंगे या तो एकदम ऊपर होंगे, क्योंकि हम जो स्टॉक्स उठाते हैं ना, दैट इज ओनली बिकॉज we were tracking few people and then the business had some tailwinds and then we locked on to it. तो कई बार मार्केट बहुत बड़ा हो जाएगा क्योंकि हम उन धंधों में है ही नहीं, हमको मान लो बैंकिंग नहीं समझ में आता तो हम है ही नहीं बैंकिंग में, और मार्केट में बैंकिंग ही बैंकिंग चल रहा है, वी आर आउट ऑफ दैट, राइट? सो इट विल हैपन, but that is what I say to my team is that is what we are more comfortable with and that is what will work in the long term, because these ideas would inherently have a margin of safety that lesser people would be looking at them. तो अपन ठीक ठाक वैल्यूएशन पे ही खरीद रहे होंगे, they are not the high flyers, तो कुछ गलत भी हुआ तो अपन का फटका कम लगेगा, और अगर ये स्केल हुआ तो the multiplier that we will get would be what would be enjoyed in the market better than the others because of people not looking at it at all. तो वो है कि it is always the group which is very very important.
Right. Linked to this, Arvind sir, so again, so this is something which I also struggle with. So actually मैं आपसे questions क्यों पूछ रहा हूँ, क्योंकि आप practitioner हो तो मेरे भी साथ साथ doubt solve हो जाते. So like corporate governance, when we read in books and when we do the hardcore accounting, then we find there are a lot of loopholes in a lot of small and micro cap. Like I have invested in companies where I found key corporate governance issues tha, but I still ended up doing good because the business was talking at the end of the day. So how do you deal with this shades of gray area? So
see, when I started out Mohit, I actually was very very focused on corporate governance. मतलब ऐसा एक भी भनक कुछ लग जाए ना कि ये प्रॉब्लम है तो बेच दो टाइप्स, ठीक है? तो आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर फोर्स मोटर्स, बजाज टेम्पोस का नाम हुआ करता था, वी बॉट एट जस्ट 130 रुपीज, ठीक है? और उस कंपनी का हमको पता चला कि भाई प्रमोटर ने वो प्लेन वेन लिया है अपने ट्रांजिट के लिए, दिस दैट, हमने बोला यार इलिक्विड स्टॉक है, बेचो इसको, जितनी जल्दी बीमारी खत्म हो, दैट्स अ स्टॉक वेंट टू 4000 रुपीज देन, ठीक है? सो द पॉइंट इज ओवर द इयर्स द मोर आई स्पेंड, सो होता क्या है आपको, सो you should have a lot of criteria. I'm not saying that you should have, but we are not institutional investors, right? हमको कोई एक चेकलिस्ट लेके बैठने की जरूरत नहीं है. By spending more time with these people who are just not necessarily listed, we as a firm spend a lot of time with unlisted niche businesses also, ताकि हमको पता चले कि कहाँ ट्रेंड्स क्या हो रहा है, कभी वो लिस्टिंग करे तो भी अपने को एटलीस्ट बैकग्राउंड पता हो. तो बहुत बार हमने देखा है कि जो ब्लेटेंटली हमको कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस इशू लगता है, एक्चुअली कंफ्यूजन होता है बिजनेस फैमिली में, या जब आप उनसे बैठ के फ्रेंड की तरह बात करते हो तो आपको प्रॉब्लम समझ में आती है कि ऐसा इन्होंने क्यों किया, कि फलाना कंपनी को अंदर मर्ज क्यों किया, या सपोज एक कंपनी है जिसको मर्ज किया क्योंकि उनका एक्सपोर्ट लाइसेंस था, वो उसको बेनिफिट लेना चाहते थे, और इवेंचुअल बेनिफिट कंपनी में ही आएगा, लेकिन आप देखोगे तो आपको लगेगा अरे यार ये तो लॉस मेकिंग कंपनी को इसने मर्ज कर दिया, राइट? सो कई बार क्या होता है, मोटिवेशन आपको लोगों के कैरेक्टर से जज करना पड़ता है, rather than just blatantly leading the news and making a judgment, भैया ये तो चोरी है या भैया यही साहूकार है. So that is why I don't subscribe to all these analysis. कई बार वो क्या होता है कि मार्केट में सबका फ्लेवर चलता है, ठीक है? हमको तो ये लगता है कि हम लोग स्टॉक मार्केट लोग हैं, हम लोग को कोई जजमेंट लेने का कोई राइट नहीं होता है. मोस्ट ऑफ, हाँ, ब्लेटेंट कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस इशू है, यू शुड स्टैंड अप एंड दैट इज गुड फॉर द इकोनॉमी आल्सो. बट कई बार क्या होता है, हम छोटी छोटी चीजें ऐसे ही फालतू में रेस करते हैं जहां पे वो बंदा आपसे बहुत ज्यादा आगे की सोच रहा होता है, या उसका एक्चुअली इंटेंशन नहीं होता है, एंड ही इज वेरी गुड इन हिज बिजनेस, ही डजंट हैव दोस इंटेंशन, बट उसका प्रोजेक्शन ऐसे हो जाता है जैसे पता नहीं उसने क्या करा. And it has been proven again and again that in India most of the people don't have an ill intention. होता क्या है, ट्रेडिशनल वे से बिजनेस रन किया होता है. इनफैक्ट बोरोसिल ग्रुप अगर आप देखो, हमको बहुत जनों ने बोला था कि इनके तो ऑडिट इशू होते थे पहले, ये होता था वो होता था, ऐसा वैसा ये वो, बट पिछले डेकेड में हमको एक इशू नहीं मिला. आप 2000 की बातें करेंगे तब भी यार प्रमोटर फैमिली, मारवाड़ी फैमिली बेचारे क्या करते थे, होता था ना, कभी हो गया कि कुछ एक्सपेंस आपने जो है फैमिली का था पता नहीं चला, कभी हम तो, आप इंटेंशन अगर गलत नहीं है ना तो हम उनको मतलब जाने देते हैं. वी वेट एंड वॉच, वी मेक एन एलोकेशन एंड वी वेट कि बहुत ही बड़ा कोई रेड फ्लैग आया तो निकलेंगे, नहीं तो वी विल स्टे. बिजनेस अच्छा लगना चाहिए, और बहुत सारी जगह पे अगर आप बिजनेस, सो इफ यू बिकम अ बिजनेसमैन योरसेल्फ एंड ट्राई टू सिट इन हिज शूज कि ये धंधा मैं चला रहा हूँ, यहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट मुझे ये बोलता है, टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट ये बोलता है, इन्वेस्टर्स ये बोलते हैं, मेरी फैमिली भी इंपॉर्टेंट है, सारे पैरामीटर्स लेके आप you know try to do that, and sometimes you'll be able to know, or something would click to you कि बॉस ये इस वजह से हुआ होगा. तो we give a benefit of doubt. तो I not say that that's a better approach, but कई बार हमको उससे problems भी हुए हैं because we've taken the leap of faith. But I always believe that आप जब मिलते हैं ना, तो कई बार वो जजमेंट जरूर डेवलप करना चाहिए कि कौन बंदा सामने वाला जेन्युइन नहीं है. वो जजमेंट अब आने लगा है, तो तब से हमने देखा है कि वो गलतियों की फटके कम हो गए हैं, बट लीप ऑफ फेथ लेने से फायदे बहुत ज्यादा हुए हैं. तो आई रेकमेंड दैट businessmen in India are also changing a whole lot. Taking a leap of faith is not a bad idea, but चोर मने मोर is also not a bad idea. कि जिसकी जो आदत रहती है ना, वो वैसी ही रहने वाली है. You judge on the character, not on what your transactions might sometimes maybe create a doubt.
Right. I think that's a wonderful answer, because this is something which I used to struggle with, but धीरे धीरे करके this is something that as one goes in their journey and they see what is happening in front of them in terms of the business has to talk at the end.
I mean, see, so common है विवेक जी अपने friend, right? You spend time with विवेक जी.
Right.
That will be your answer on corporate. हाँ, मेरे को बोला evening your meeting. So you do those things, right? Those things would actually give you a perspective which will take care of these things.
Right. So, Arvind sir, one more question linked to this is that in a lot of micro caps and mid caps space, we have seen that whenever the second generation comes in, like if I talk about Garware, if I talk about Gufic Biosciences, or maybe what might happen in Pitti Engineering or these type of companies, so just the company transforms because these guys have basically taken Western education and then they apply those corporate governance practices over here. Then you look at the annual report of companies like Garware, now they're talking about return on capital employed. So is this a pattern which you have also seen in your investing journey and in some of the stocks that you've selected in the past few years?
It is. In fact, we see it in our own office. So this thing first took me in 2016 कि यार मैं जिस तरह से कंपनी रन कर रहा हूँ निवेशाय, my person who's प्रतीक है या विक्रम है, अगर उनको मैं दे दूं चलाने के लिए, वो मेरे से efficiently कर लेंगे यार. So this is something which a lot of these youngsters have a mindset which is far better or far more aligned to the modern way of running business. So definitely it happens that the whole mindset, and they bring that energy, right? So I have seen within my own organization that few people, when they brought the energy, how it has transformed, how the numbers have completely changed. So it is very simple for me, and the personal transformation what I've seen with HLE. In fact, Alap Patel, jo Nilesh ji ke son hai, when he came back, and the processes that he said, the engineering prowess that he had, and when he applied it, and that and in a business where they were 50% market share, still he made so many processes of efficiency. In fact, that guy, when they bought Swiss Glass Code, for 5 days in a week, he used to go to his family used to be here in Surat, and he used to travel to Anand and spend 5 days over there at the plant. That's the kind of dedication that he has. That the kind, so there a mix of energy, dedication, and good governance is sometimes a deadly combination, I guess, which is brought by these people, and it's very infectious. It flows through the organization. You can see that.
Right. So I'll just ask 2-3 more questions. Otherwise, audience will start basically, because we'll also give them a chance to ask questions.
Correct.
So Arvind sir, one more question from my side. So this is something that I've seen happening over and over again in this space, is that the luck and skill conundrum. So I'll just name, so again, not a stock recommendation. So we actually have followed this company Balaji Amines for a very long period of time. So we used to be invested in alkyl amines. So in Balaji Amines, we saw that they put up the capex for DMF, and basically the entrepreneur guided that they'll be hitting 70-80% utilization within 14 to 15 months of capex. But after 15 months of capex, utilization was 15%. Now, what ends up happening is, after the lockdown and stuff, the capacity shutdown happens in China as well, and the price of the chemical just goes through the roof, and then they hit almost 70-80% capacity utilization. Similarly in Deepak Nitrite, so again, we totally are biased over there for last almost 2 years. So similarly over there, we saw that phenol spreads when they started the project. So phenol spreads, basically it was a loss making plant. So basically they were so they barely break even ही हो रहा था. Then phenol spreads also rose, and then basically the stock just went through the roof. So luck and skill conundrum में, how much will you sort of give credit to luck in small and mid cap investing, and how much will you actually credit the skill part as well? Because a lot of the times, whenever a small mid cap, like we saw in Shivalik Biometal, enters into headwinds, stock, and whenever there is some luck element that plays out, then the thing just goes through the roof. So this is
Correct. So
which is
it was, in fact, Ishmohit, this was the same question I had to, one of my guru way back in 2016, and I told them that, the process that we are following at Niveshaay, मुझे लगता है हम लक ज्यादा प्ले कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि मिल लिए, किसी से बात हो गई, वो स्टॉक समझ में आ गया, ले लिया, लेकिन हम कोई प्रोसेस तो फॉलो ही नहीं कर रहे कि वैसे स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट क्या है, स्टॉक मिलेगा कैसे, अगर कभी कोई स्टॉक मिला ही नहीं तो फिर तो परफॉर्मेंस ही नहीं आएगी, फिर व्हाट वी डू, वी रिटर्न द कैपिटल people, or what we do. I mean, he told that, you think that there is not a process, and luck definitely has an important role to play, but जितना आप skills धीरे धीरे develop करते रहते हो ना, luck आपका ज्यादा favor करता है, right? So I know an investor who was invested in Balaji MI 40% of his portfolio. Right, he has bought that stock, and he's a very close friend of mine. I can name him also. He don't mind, Mr. Rajiv Rupani of Bombay. He, had this since 120 rupees, right? And he didn't even sell a single stock when it went to 700-800 at 2017-18. Then way back on the downside, he saw the stock again, 230, 40. But that is something, I'd say that he can, maybe he's lucky, right? कि यार अभी स्टॉक हो गया 3-4 हजार रुपए, उसका तो वेल्थ बन गया, इज लकी. बट नो, he had that conviction, patience. He regularly used to try to visit them, talk to their competitors. They take data from China. So focused. He has just 5 stocks in his portfolio, right? The other stock that we both have in common is another 30% of his portfolio, right? So होता ही है कि I'm not recommending कि ऐसा किसी को करना चाहिए, but the point is कि कई बार ना हमको लगता है ये लक है, but there is a conscious effort or a conscious skill that you've developed over the years which makes you lucky. तो जैसे आप लोग ये फोरम्स करते हैं, डिस्कशन करते हैं, आपको लगता है कि कभी कोई डिस्कशन में कोई स्टॉक आ गया, ये लक है? नहीं, यू क्रिएटेड दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी, you created those opportunities, and then when you get an opportunity to ride it, you should ride it with confidence. हम भी बहुत अंडर कॉन्फिडेंट होते थे 2016 में कि यार ये तो अपने साथ लक लक हो रहा है, बट लक एक बार होएगा ना, 2 बार होएगा ना, you're not a one hit wonder, right? It is happening again and again. That means there is a process that is getting involved, and that is in a way improving the whole process. And investing will always, in fact, Buffett till now acknowledges that it was luck that has favored him most. So we should always be humble in admitting that it is always more portion, but we can at least increase our chances, possibilities, by focusing on our skills.
Right. I think again that's a wonderful answer, something that I can associate with too. So just 2 last questions from my side, then we take some questions from the audience as well. So one more question, Arvind sir. So what is your framework for selling a stock? Like we realize that we have gone wrong on a particular business, and so this is our framework for selling. And what are some of the common key learnings that basically come out of the mistakes as well?
Correct. So again 2016-17 has been an instrumental year for us, where we were struggling with all these factors. I mean, selling was a biggest, you can say, problem that we were facing, because when you know a business so deeply and when you associate with someone so passionately, फिर उसको बेचना एक ना बड़ा सा वो हो जाता है आपको कि because you have invested, you have to take a sell call. But then what we started to do is we increased our base. Mr. Deepak Kapoor of Chennai, या बहुत सारे अच्छे इन्वेस्टर, राजीव जी खन्ना, या इन सबसे मिले, सबने अपना व्यू दिया. उन व्यूज को हमने सोचा समझा, बहुत सारी जगह पे अपने बायसेस को कम करने की कोशिश करी पहले तो, राइट? सो पहले एक काम किया कि इंटरनल सारे बायसेस को हटा देना है, लेकिन वो करके भी हमने देखा 2018-19 तक भी कि अभी भी कुछ बायसेस है. फिर हमने रियलाइज किया कि कई बार आपको कुछ एक्सटर्नल ओपिनियन से आपका बायस कम हो सकता है. सो there are a lot of people who also, so we never used to believe in charts, but in 2018 we found a person जिसने, actually हम HLE बेच रहे थे, उसने रोक दिया हमको कि भैया इसका तो लीडर ऑफ द मार्केट है, आप इसको 900 में क्या बेच रहे हो, ये तो आप गलती कर रहे हो, आप इसका कुछ ये 2-3 उन्होंने लेवल बोले, ये तब तक ब्रीच नहीं करे, यू ट्राइड इट। सेम बोरोसिल रिन्यूएबल में उन्होंने बोला, वहां पे भी ठीक बैठा हमारा। सेम उन्होंने मतलब बहुत सारे स्टॉक्स में हमको गाइड किया, दीपक नाइट्राइट वगैरह में, व्हेन वी वर ट्राइंग टू एग्जिट अर्ली, यूज्ड टू स्टॉप अस। तो दैट वाज व्हेन वी रियलाइज दैट के कई बार वो जब स्टॉक आपका मोमेंटम में आ जाता है और हम वैल्यू इन्वेस्टर बने फिरते हैं, वो भी नहीं करना चाहिए।
Right.
आपका मोमेंटम में आ रहा है स्टॉक, तो राइड करो ना, मतलब यू एंजॉय द हार्ड वर्क दैट यू डन। आप क्यों अपने आप को थोड़ा सा वो प्रीएम्प्ट करने की ट्राई कर रहे हो? लेट अलोन व्हाट द मार्केट वांट्स टू डू विद। तो हमारी एग्जिट, I'd say that person has improved, and now he's working with us also. He manages his own money, he doesn't manage anyone else's money, but we admire him a lot, and hence he helps us with that process now at Niveshaay. And the combination has, in fact, because he's not just looking at charts, वो
Right.
बहुत अच्छे एनालिसिस लेके आते हैं यूएस में, कि यूएस में इस तरह के इंडस्ट्री में क्या हुआ था, कितने बड़े मार्केट कैप्स हुए थे, क्वार्टरली अर्निंग्स वो अपने चार्ट्स पे पूरा राइट करते हैं। तो बिजनेस मोमेंटम और स्टॉक मोमेंटम दोनों को एनालाइज करके वो अपना व्यू देते हैं। दैट व्यू हैज रिफाइंड आवर प्रोसेस वेरी नाइसली, बिकॉज वो अगर कोई सिर्फ चार्ट बोलता ना, तो हमको कभी समझ में भी नहीं, बिकॉज अपन फंडामेंटल अगर ज्यादा फॉलो करते हैं ना, तो आप बहुत बायस हो जाते हो। बट द वे ही प्रेजेंटेड, हमारे लिए टेक्निकल्स का मीनिंग ही पूरा चेंज हो गया, right? Looking at market caps, how the whole way it is being played in the mother market in the US, and how you can relate it to the Indian market, Indian stocks and sectors, subsectors, and with that business momentum and leading indicators। फिर हमने क्या किया, हम लोग business indicators भी, हमको export का डेटा मिलता है मंथली, हमको बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी मंथली मिलती है जिसको भी हम उनको डेटा पॉइंट्स देते हैं, and then we try to combine both of them and try to look at कि जहां पे बिजनेस टीम लूज कर रहा है, साथ में स्टॉक का भी मोमेंटम लूज कर रहा है ना, दैट इज द टाइम वी डोंट वेट फॉर द क्वार्टरली अर्निंग्स, बिकॉज समटाइम्स वी सीन इट बिकम्स अ वेरी बिग डिजास्टर पोस्ट दैट। तो वी ट्राई टू जज आवर एग्जिट इन दैट मैनर।
Right. So, Arvind, so last two questions from my side. So, one question is on your approach for portfolio allocation, because no matter how much basically कितना भी diligence हम लोग कर लें, so there will be some accidents, because
करेक्ट
can
करेक्ट
10 out of 10 times, right?
करेक्ट
And
करेक्ट
what do
करेक्ट।
you think about the hit rate, like long-term hit rate, that whether one person is 4 times right out of 10 or 5 times right out of 10, and how do you marry that approach with your portfolio allocation, that at least when you're right, you end up making the maximum amount, and at least when you're wrong, you end up losing basically the least amount?
So, we always communicate this to our investors that we are in the game of, being concentrated, right? You will never have us, throwing a dime at things that we strongly believe at. So that has a downside risk always, and we face that, right? It's not that we've not faced that, but we believe that having a hit rate of 5 and above is also pretty good. I mean, उससे ज़्यादा देखो होता भी नहीं है। 5 और 6 7 तक कोई पहुंच जाए ना, तो बंदा गॉड है, मतलब ठीक है। बट ठीक है, वो 5-6 की रन रेट भी आप मेंटेन करो ना, इट इज वेरी गुड। हम लोग जस्ट ऑफ लेट क्या करना चालू किए हैं कि जैसे टेक्सटाइल्स उठाया, तो टेक्सटाइल एज अ बास्केट उठाते हैं, तो फिर क्या पर शेयर एलोकेशन कम हो जाता है, बट वी गो सो फर्स्ट एलोकेशन इज 5 एंड वी आर कंफर्टेबल टेकिंग अप टू 10 के बाद हमने आजकल क्या है कि हम लोग जो जो 3-4 जिनको रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं उनसे डिस्कस करते हैं, और फिर देखते हैं कि वेदर वी वांट टू टेक इट अप टू 15 और नॉट, नहीं तो वी कैप इट एट 10। बट that is where what has happened, because it is something that is at the fund level we take, but मान लो कि there are entrepreneurs who are wanting to get our reports and they are discussing with us कि मैं I am comfortable, you guide me whether I should take, मेरे क्योंकि मेरी पूरी फैमिली का ये एलोकेशन इतना छोटा है, मैटर नहीं करता है, तो मेरे को ऐसा लगता है मैं मेरे फंड का एलोकेशन तो देख लेता हूँ, दैट इज ओके। But the investor who is buying my fund, or he has maybe 10 funds he is working with, उसकी फैमिली का एलोकेशन भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है। वेरी रेयरली यू गेट बिजनेसेस 2-3 साल में एक बार आपको चांस मिलता है, एक बहुत ही ब्यूटीफुल बिजनेस एक अच्छे वैल्यूएशन पे सेट होता है। एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम हम हमारे इन्वेस्टर्स को हेल्प करते हैं कि आपके फैमिली के एलोकेशन के टर्म्स में भी आप देखो कि ये आपको इतना रिस्क है, सामने ये रिवॉर्ड। सो इट हैज बिकम मोर लाइक, हम लोग ना साथ में मिलकर ऐसे कई बार कुछ इन्वेस्टर प्रोजेक्ट लगाते हैं कि मान लो इतने का प्रोजेक्ट लगाएंगे, इतना पैसा जाएगा, इतना पैसा 5 साल में आएगा, नहीं तो इतना पैसा डूब जाएगा। वो प्लानिंग करने में ज्यादा मजा आता है, रादर देन जो हमारे फंड लेवल पे जो हम कैप करते हैं वो, आई मीन वी एट द रिस्क ऑफ मे बी गोइंग wrong also, we take it up to a higher percentage, even if it means we can maybe underperform the market. But 5 से ऊपर का रेट आता है ना, तो अंडर परफॉर्मेंस नहीं आता है।
Right.
4-5 साल में you tend to be better than the market.
I think it's a very lopsided game where you just have to be right 4 or 5 times out of 10.
Yes, yes, it is sometimes, you know, so Buffett बहुत अच्छे से बोलता है ना कि आपके पास 20 आइडिया, आपकी इन्वेस्टमेंट जर्नी में आप ऐसे समझ लो 20 ही चाहिए।
Right.
आपको कैंसिल करते रहना चाहिए जब जब आपको एक एक मिलते जाए, तो उससे ज्यादा आपको अगर डिसीजन बनाने का अगर मिलेगा ना मौका, तो आप इनएफिशिएंट हो जाओगे। तो
Right.
आपको अगर 20 मल्टी बैगर्स प्ले करने हैं, तो आप देख लो कि यू नो इट कैन नॉट हैपन बाय स्प्रेडिंग इट इन अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स एंड यू नो, क्योंकि 100 ढूंढना बहुत मुश्किल होगा, बहुत बहुत मुश्किल होगा।
Right, right. So, Arvind sir, just last question from my side. So, this is linked to the strategy at small case as well. I think you have one China plus one portfolio, second portfolio for green energy, and third is the small and mid cap portfolio.
Correct.
So like we are also invested a lot in chemicals, and we are also looking at textiles these days. So one question which troubles me as well. So I've basically went to Vatwa district in Gujarat. So I saw the entire chemical factories over there. And I saw the roads were dyed blue and green. Even the dog was dyed blue and green.
Correct.
So this pollution arbitrage in terms that if China capacities are shutting down in China, so this question actually troubles me from the perspective of a risk, because chemicals are a large part of the PF. So how do you think about this, that there are a few companies which are actually investing in pollution control, or then there are some set of companies which might be doing well in the stock market, but once you go on the ground, you see what is happening over there. So
Correct.
how do you think about the pitfall of this pollution arbitrage that Indian companies are benefiting out of?
So it's very important which area. For example, you visited Gujarat, there are a lot of chemical factories over there, and I'll tell you, it's a myth that we have a pollution arbitrage in India. For very long periods of time, our entrepreneurs have paid much higher cost of environment than our peer countries, and that is why the global giants are giving business to India. Gujarat, in fact, in pollution control has policies which are in a way the toughest. In fact, the entrepreneurs had to spend a lot on their effluent treatment than any other, you know, state in our you know, country. But yes, I'll admit that there are few entrepreneurs who are trying to grow, you know, aggressively than the market, and they are making this mistake that you're talking about. And that is where there'll be a very big mistake, and there'll be a very big, you can say, problem that they might face. And I'm aware of what the authorities you know, are planning, and because we talk to a lot of pollution control guys, they have all the data these days.
Right.
I know companies who are just, you know, accumulating barrels and barrels of effluent and are growing so fast. Financially, अगर आप देखोगे उनके numbers beat करेंगे quarter on quarter, but the risk that they are running with these barrels that they are carrying, because one you know, wrong move, one visit, and it will create a lot of havoc, right? So you should focus. Don't believe that there is you know, something which India has an arbitrage. Yes, we are getting the business from China. Someday our country would become even more stringent, but we have got business from multinationals because we were already you know, environmentally better than our peer countries. That is a fact. I have seen entrepreneurs in Gujarat spending on world-class facilities and now also on systems, trying to go towards a lot of best practices that are there with the multinationals that they are collaborating with. So it is an evolving process. It will change with time, but I don't believe that that's a blatant risk across the portfolio at all.
Right, right. Thank you for the answer. So sorry. So one more question that I had was linked to the proxy investing. So I've actually seen that while buying picks and shovel plays. So sometimes I face this risk that whenever the end user industry slows down, right, then the picks and shovels also ends up suffering. And secondly, one more problem that we get in picks and shovel plays is that size of opportunity sometimes is limited.
Correct.
So how do you deal with this in your own framework of things?
So we actually, you know, so this was our main framework that we've worked with, because we believe that the end industry, sometimes we don't have the bandwidth, or you can say we don't have the mindset to play it, because, you know, FMCG में कौन सबसे बड़ा brand बनेगा, या consumer electronics में कौन सबसे बड़ा brand बनेगा, वो वाला market intelligence और market and understanding करना, it was getting very tough. So what we did is we always played a number kind of a guy. वो जो भी AC बनाएगा, this guy has a higher market share, and this guy would be benefiting out of it. या शिवलिक बायोमेटल जैसा guy, या KPIT अगर वो EV अगर बड़ा होएगा तो BMW को अगर ये इंफ्रा बना के दे रहा है तो एटलीस्ट ये तो ग्रो कर लेगा, BMW का प्रोडक्ट हिट होएगा नहीं होएगा। तो इसमें क्या आपको कंफर्ट मिलता है इंडस्ट्री को और क्लोजली देखने का। प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि थीम जब ग्रो हो रही है तो इतनी फास्ट ग्रो हो रही है, मार्केट कैप जितने ज्यादा स्वेल हो रहे हैं कि आपको रिएक्ट करने का टाइम नहीं मिलता है। तो वहां पे आपको थोड़ा कंफर्ट स्टॉक्स बाय करने होते हैं कि जहां पे योर लॉस व्हेन यू गो रॉन्ग इज एटलीस्ट लिमिटेड। वहां पे हम पिक एंड शॉल में पहले तो वो देखते हैं कि मेरा नुकसान क्या है, ग्रोथ छोड़ो, नुकसान क्या है अगर मैं गलत गया तो। फिर अगर मेरे को कोई हाई ग्रोथ इंडस्ट्री में ग्रो करने का मौका मिलता है तो लेट मी ट्राई टू फाइंड आउट विच आर दोस बिजनेसेस। और वहां पे जब तक हम उनको एलोकेशन नहीं लेंगे ना तो बुक्स पे कभी कोई एनालिसिस होता नहीं है। देखो, तो कई बार तो हम अंधेरे में भी तीर मार रहे होते हैं कि अभी तक केपीआईटी का धंधा सिर्फ 50% ही समझा है, लेकिन स्टॉक बाय कर लिया 2-2.5% पोर्टफोलियो का। तो लेंगे, पैसा लगेगा तो जाएंगे, समझेंगे, बहुत सारा काम करेंगे, और फिर अच्छा लगा तो 7.5 का गए, राइट। तो हम लोग डेफिनेटली we try to take smaller allocation in our pick and shovel plays and try to run it higher when the data supports it. But क्योंकि वहां पे downside limited होता है तो we try to run that risk. And what you're saying is exactly what happens when the end industry is slowing down. These guys also face those problems. तो हम लोग बहुत सारे, अब जैसे चाइना में देयर लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु बिकम जो आप समझ लो कि डेटाबेस प्रोवाइडर्स हैं या ऐसे जो लोग हैं जो हम विजिट करते हैं कई बार, तो कुछ लोगों से मिलते हैं, कुछ एंटरप्रेन्योर से मिलते हैं, कोई डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर से मिलते हैं, कोई ट्रेडर से मिलते हैं, और उनसे फिर हम लोग टच में रहते हैं और फिर उनसे पूछते रहते हैं चीजें कि वहां पे क्या हो रहा है, क्या ग्रोथ आ रही है। तो कई बार कुछ पॉइंट पे कुछ एक डेटा पॉइंट हेल्प कर लेता है कि ये स्लो डाउन आ रहा है, वी शुड आल्सो बी कॉन्शियस। बट व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज डेफिनेटली राइट कि कई बार वो जस्ट हिट करता है आपको क्वार्टरली रिजल्ट्स में, उससे पहले कोई इंडिकेशन ही नहीं आता आपको। तो यस, इट इज प्रॉब्लमैटिक, बट थोड़ा सा रिफाइन किया जा सकता है प्रोसेस में। एटलीस्ट 50-60% ऑफ द टाइम्स आपको कुछ इंडिकेशन वो हिट होने से पहले भी मिल सकते हैं अगर आप मार्केट ड्यू डिलिजेंस थोड़ा ठीक कर लो तो।
Right. Again, like a fantastic answer because you are actually a practitioner. So ऐसे questions पूछने में ज्यादा मजा आता है क्योंकि if you're asking a question to a practitioner, तो then it is actually fun because you've been practicing.
इसमें मेरे को ना 2015 में मधु जी करके है, उनको मैं वेलम कैपिटल के बहुत रिगार्ड्स रखता हूँ। उन्होंने मेरे को एक ही चीज बोली थी, अरविंद तू सूटकेस हमेशा रेडी रेडी रखना, मैं तेरे को जहां बोलूं वहां चले जाना। मैंने बोला मैं चला जाऊं। ठीक है, आप जहां बोलोगे, जो एंटरप्रेन्योर जब ईमेल का रिप्लाई करेगा, हम हमेशा एक सूटकेस रेडी रखते हैं। वही हमारा मार्केट ड्यू डिलिजेंस है, वही हमारा you can say so that is the only thing that I can control, right? Rest things I cannot control what the market does. तो एटलीस्ट वहां पे हम लोग हमारा सारा एफर्ट रखते हैं, बाकी तो मार्केट है, जो करेंगे वो करते हैं।
So just last question from my side before we take some questions from the audience. So question is ki, so for any youngster or any passionate retail investor who wants to sort of build a network for scuttlebutt or who wants to build a network in a particular industry, so what are some of the sources that you will suggest? Because I think a lot also depends on serendipity कि आप कितना अपने आप को उन areas में लेके जा रहे हो, कितना network कर रहे हो, but still what can be the approach for any youngster who wants to sort of have this type of network?
So definitely small और mid cap में या micro cap में वो बहुत difficult है, but at least what I try to tell people is कि it is not difficult कि अगर आप अपने खुद के आसपास देखो, you'll have some relative who's working somewhere in some industry, yeah, you'll find some you can say connection which can give you insights into business. Talking to people who know a business is sometimes far better than reading 10 annual reports or whatever. You should do that, right? I'm not saying you should not do that, right? In fact, I'm one of the most least read you can say investor in my circle. When I say लोग ये पढ़ रहे हैं, ये बुक पढ़ रहे हैं, ऐसा कर रहे हैं, वैसा कर रहे हैं, मैं तो यार 3-4 बुक पढ़ी और मेरे को लगा बस ये इनफ है। अब जो भी रीडिंग है वो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स की करने में हम लोग ज्यादा बिलीव करते हैं। बट I find it very weird when people spend a lot of time sitting on their laptops and just trying to, and these days it's simple because कई बार entrepreneurs भी आपको आजकल Zoom पे बहुत सारा knowledge दे रहे हैं, तो that's not bad if you're doing that. But going out, trying to meet a lot of distributors of few companies, trying to set an you can say market study on few B2B businesses. क्योंकि B2C businesses आप समझो एक दौर था इंडिया में, हमको लगता है अभी जो आने वाले समय इंडिया में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अगर बहुत अच्छे से ग्रो करने वाली है, इफ वी बिलीव चाइना द ग्रोथ रेट, क्रेजी ग्रोथ रेट दैट दे हैड, if you want to focus on manufacturing a lot, then आपको you have to get your hands dirty, you have to get on to, आपको जैसे आप आए थे गुजरात, राइट, आपको ऐसा करना पड़ेगा, राइट, यू गो टू कोयम्बतूर 5 दिन बस चले जाओ वहां पे,
right,
राइट, आई टेल दिस टू whoever young person joins me, राइट, आप चले जाओ पानोली, 4 दिन वहीं रहना है, देखेंगे मेरे को कोई कांटेक्ट मिलेगा तो मैं दूंगा, आपको कोई मिलेगा आप चले जाना, घूमते रहो, मिलते रहो। सो पॉइंट इज के if we just keep on thinking sitting in our offices के यार मैं जाऊंगा, क्या काम होगा नहीं होगा, हम लोग चले जाते हैं, ठीक है, फिर देखते हैं अचानक से किसी को व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप्स है 5-6, उनमें पूछ लेते हैं कहीं से, तो वो ग्रुप बनाना थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट है, आई एडमिट दैट इन माइक्रो कैप्स और स्मॉल कैप्स, बट द पॉइंट इज के एफर्ट if we take आपका माइंड जलने लगता है, राइट, and these days people are so approachable and all good investors are approachable. I will say this one thing which is very good in India, जितना अच्छा इन्वेस्टर है ना उतना हम्बल है और उतना स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड है। आई गेस आज 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 मैं किसी यंगस्टर को बोलूंगा कि यार इश्मोहित से बात करनी है, तो इश्मोहित टाइम देता है, ऐसा नहीं कि ही डजंट गिव टाइम, ठीक है। हम लोग को अगर किसी से बात करना है, भले वो सुनील जी सिंघानिया हो तो क्या, भले वो आप जिनको हीरो समझते हो ऑन स्क्रीन पे, आपको लगता है बहुत ज्यादा टाइम है, लेकिन हमने जब ये उनसे इंटरेक्ट करना चालू किया ना, उनको लगा यार उतने ही सिंपल लोग हैं और उनको भी अपने आइडिया में इंटरेस्ट है। तो तो फिर वो क्या है कि they are also looking, yes, I'm very sure, in fact Manish Kobrai still sends every year a book to us, and his greetings for new year, because we keep on sending a new idea to him every year. ठीक है, तो
right.
वो इसमें इन्वेस्ट करते नहीं करते उनका लुकआउट है, बट इट फील्स ग्रेट टू गेट मेल्स फ्रॉम हिम, इट फील्स ग्रेट टू हैव अ कैजुअल चैट टू हिम व्हेनेवर ही इज इंडिया, वी ट्राई टू मीट हिम। सो होता क्या है कि अपन को लगता है कि what efforts we are making cannot be scalable. I'm telling you, if you've done a good work, it is scalable, and you need a lesser focus in thing that you're good at. 100 कंपनियां मत देखो, 3-4 ऐसी ढूंढो जिसमें मतलब वो बिजनेस आपसे बेटर किसी को आएगा ही नहीं इंडिया में, एंड देन यू सी हाउ you can say understanding scales up, and your respect scales up.
Right, right. I think with this I'll take questions from the audience. So मेरे पास तो अभी 10 क्वेश्चन और है पूछने के लिए, but I think we'll have a conversation over the phone. Thank you so much for answering the questions very like in a very good manner. So I'll just take some questions from the audience. You can raise your hands. So first question we'll take from Meet Shah. So I'm just giving the permission to talk. So yeah, Meet, you can ask a question. So let's limit questions to one per audience so that more people can ask as well.
Hello Arvind sir, how are you?
I'm fine, Meet. कैसे हो?
अरे एकदम बढ़िया sir. Guys, I just want to say one thing about Arvind sir, that he's such a jam and passionate guy that we are enjoying weekend and listening to him, and he is sitting in different company and doing scuttlebutt and sucking the life out of next gen promoters for his investors. He's a very passionate guy, and for him weekend means promoter meeting and plant visiting. So I've learned a lot from him, and thanks Ismoit for allowing me to ask the question. Sir, I have a question on platform businesses. So, sir, as you know, from 1988 to 1995, US saw optical fiber cable boom. Okay, and then come the rise of tech and platform companies. From 1998 to 2000, many US-based startups got acquired by Google, Yahoo, etc. at crazy valuation, and finally the bubble busted. Out of 15-20,000 startups, only one survived, and less than 0.1% thrived. So then also the platform segment grew to a next height. So in India also, if we go back to 4-5 years back, we saw that in 2016 Reliance announced Jio, and then this optic fiber cable boom started. And now we are seeing lots of startups happening and IPO coming at crazy valuation. So out of thousands of startups, I don't know what percentage of startups will survive or even thrive. So if we take example of any such startup and compare it with the US startup, the most of the startups are trading at the valuation of price to sell of 5 or 6. Okay, and here if you take any startup, they are trading at the multiple of price to sales 30, 40 or 50. So even after 10x their revenues in 10 years, even if they were able to do, then also their multiple will price to sell multiple will come at around 5 or 6. So they might be good business, but I don't know it's good for investments or not. So sir, what is your view on that space? How we should look at such companies? Because out of 10,000, only one stock will be a moonshot stock. So it's how are you looking at this space? If you have मतलब कभी भी आपने ये space देखा हो तो, if you can share some views,
Yeah.
and it will be helpful
So
for investors.
So, predominantly because we look at manufacturing more, had not had that kind of due diligence or the competence to, maybe track those businesses. But what happened in 2017-18 was lucky that Vikram, Sharma, he's in our office. He had, good work on IEX and CDSL. So luckily, we thought that CDSL also is somewhere, you have you have that kind of operating leverage which a platform business has. Maybe it's not a platform kind of a play, but there's a huge operating leverage that you can play. So what I will say is, these kind of platforms, the kind of valuation they have, it becomes very, very imperative for you to have a very good knowledge of those. And if you're into it, and you can maybe improve your chances to find those narrow platforms which will become big, then definitely you have a huge opportunity in front of you. But if you're not able to do that, the kind of valuation they're commanding, right, in historically it's not been proven that if a sector's valuation has gone up crazily, they have delivered on a great set of you can say returns post that period. So there is a problem over there. But you can say, maybe look at maybe Map My India, for example, right? It's a company which in fact would be benefited if a lot of these platforms would get benefited, right? Or you try to find out ancillary to the maps, to the platforms, right? So if food service as a platform is growing, then what ancillary, right, QSRs can benefit out of it. So you should always narrow your focus to businesses you are comfortable with, or you are more certain of the cash flows and the valuations justifying them eventually, even after taking a 10-year view. I'm not saying that be a traditional person कि 2-4 साल कोई कंपनी पैसा नहीं कमा रही है, तो you should not look at it. Because Peter Thiel, yeah, he beautifully has this concept that he only looks at businesses who are profitable 10 years hence, right? Because those will the businesses which will not attract any competition. So great are those businesses. But why not look at these kind of companies who have these high operating leverages because of scale, rather than just focus on platform businesses? There are a lot of companies which you can, in fact, if IT infrastructure, so we were doing this analysis that modern manufacturing is different. So we are studying what happened in Korea, what happened in China, and how they're manufacturing, the modern manufacturing, what kind of capabilities they have and what kind of systems they are having in place. So you can find companies which are not a per se categorized platform, but they have the same operating leverage which a platform business enjoys. So the beauty is that a platform business and operating leverage, which basically makes it that multi-bagger or that crazy kind of returns. So you should take a leaf out of those platform companies and try to judge where those operating leverage lies. Once in a while, you will find these kind of companies which are sitting at good valuation because they are not being categorized per se as platform, rather than companies announcing in the market that I'm a platform and hence give me this valuation. So I mean, there are companies which are trying to do that. Never go for those companies, right? So we visited Parag way back in 2018, and every presentation, every meeting, the promoters used to tell me, we are an FMCG business, we should get an FMCG business valuation. तो हमको लगा बस ये तो नहीं होना चाहिए, right? I'm not commenting on their business whether it's FMCG or not, but the businesses who are shouting for something, don't go over there. Even if they become what they're claiming to, you're already paying a price for that, and that will not be remunerative, is what my understanding is in that context.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful answer. Ishmohit, am I allowed to ask one more question if you permit, or else I will join the queue?
I think you can ask one more question. So, but still, let's try to limit one question per audience because a lot of people have raised their hands.
Okay. Thank you. Sir, we have seen in US also that first comes agriculture boom, then come manufacturing boom, and then the tech boom. Same thing happened in China also. First they are into agriculture, then they are into
India में थोड़ा
manufacturing.
reverse हो गया, हमारे यहाँ technology boom पहले.
Yes, तो इंडिया में वो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कभी आया ही नहीं सर. So
Correct.
now is the time that we are seeing that lot of things are happening on ground. So sir, which kind of sectors you are targeting where the profit pool is very large and जहाँ पे अच्छा खासा market cap बन सकता है. So if you can share some views, then it will be very helpful
So,
for us.
it is for sure that even though we did not have a manufacturing boom, but if you look at every decade, we have had manufacturing giants emerge in separate sectors, right? We had pharma way back in 2008 to 14, right? We had chemicals post that, right? We have a lot of sectors now. If you look at, after COVID, what is interesting is that instead of a single sector, we have multiple sector where these tailwinds are there, right? Steel manufacturing, building products. You look at Morbi in Gujarat, it is becoming the tile manufacturing hub of the world. Just not look at the listed guys, right? Also look at कि कहाँ पे manufacturing prowess हमारा आ रहा है, भले वो listed हो चाहे unlisted हो. The boom that we are seeing, the capex that we are having in products where we are achieving global scale is far higher than any decade that we've observed, right? So to miss this theme, I guess, would be a very big miscalculation on the part of the investors, because you get these opportunities in a maybe a decade comes in the whole life cycle of a country, and China had maybe 2 decades of that. We might have 1 or 2 decades of that. So that is something which has just started, and that will be accentuated with scale, right? So one sector we've discussed textiles in detail, and I believe the numbers that we are seeing this quarter, be it Ambika Cotton, which I guess Neetbhai you also own, or Nitin Spinners, or Nahar Spinners, or even Gokuldas Exports, whether it's apparel side, whether it's spinning yarn side, whether it's these home textile guys, the numbers are far better than even we had anticipated, right? Even after the cost pressures, even after the supply chain issues in the containers that we are facing. So we feel that that is one sector which should not be ignored by investors. We have a good you can say scale in India itself because of its base, and that we can extrapolate it to export to the world market, and that's an opportunity. It's not it's worth looking, I'd say. And even building materials, right? You look at building materials, a lot of categories India is exporting. Look at quads, right? Quads, only 2 companies have a Breton line in India. Another company listed has had posted great results again. So these are companies across you can say these manufacturing sectors, which are very niche in terms of that. Because see, if so in one of the slide, I guess I skipped it, I didn't use it, but 1% export opportunity in textile means 30,000 crores of business for us if it shifts from China to India, right? तो 30,000 आप सारे टेक्सटाइल कंपनियों का मार्केट कैप जोड़ दो इंडिया में 40-50 हजार करोड़ में खत्म हो जाएगा सब मिला के, राइट? सो सब मैं 25-30 हजार का धंधा और करूंगा, अगर 1% सिर्फ धंधा यहाँ पे आता है, तो द मार्केट कैप्स आर, सो वी आर वेरी स्मॉल in terms of the market caps of a lot of these companies which can have a positive cycle. So you should focus on those data points more.
Sir, such a wonderful answer. So, thanks, Ishmohit. Keep bringing such good minds to the platform. You are doing wonderful job. They say that पैसा दो ही चीज से बनता है. Either read or meet. And read is Ishmohit is the perfect example, and meet. Arvind sir is the perfect example. So it's very good to see two good guys talking and bringing such wonderful webinars to people like us. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meet bhai.
Thank you, Meet bhai. So next question we'll take from Jay. So Jay Prakash, I'm just unmuting your line. Please try to limit your question to one, so more people can also ask. So Jay, your line is unmuted. You can ask.
Yeah, thank you, Mohit, for just having such a wonderful persons. Day by day, you are just bringing all these talents, and just I just joined recently, and it's been a really wonderful seeing all these things, because I was doing all these things earlier as well, but it was not perspective to anything. But you brought this, and you are doing a great job actually. So Ismail, thanks for that. Arvind sir, I have a question for you. You have just you did a really great job, and you have presented all these things really great. I didn't have such introspections about all these things, but you have this presentation well. Thank you for that. So yeah, my question is, how do you get the first idea about a company, and how many ideas you work at a time? And second will be, what do you do outside your investing in your spare times?
Okay, so again, as I told in my presentation also that we were more betting on luck earlier, but what has happened over the years is that our network has improved. So post 2015-16, the number of sectors that we are tracking, the capabilities have improved because we have 7 good people who have various capabilities, and they also bring their own understanding. So as I told, we just so we just look at where the large business opportunities are being generated, right? Be it chemicals, be it textiles, be it companies. So Gujarat, being in Gujarat is something, a luck that I cannot believe that I was born here and I'm here, because you get these huge scale of businesses and almost a representative of all kinds of businesses in manufacturing which are over there, right? You have the textile base, you have chemicals base, you have pharma base, you have so many things. So this vicinity, right? So many people tell me that why don't you move to Bombay? I just cannot miss the opportunity of being in Surat, because in my 400 500 kilometers of radius I get to meet people who in a way are changing the face of manufacturing of a country, right? So that you can say helps us a lot. Again, being with investors which have like-minded thing, they help us a lot, tracking some data points. So we look at export data, we look at import data, we look at categories which are winning, maybe losing steam, imports which are getting higher month on month, right? Every month we do that due diligence, and the idea can come from a simple parameter that gas prices in China had gone up substantially higher, right? Or some energy prices world over have gone up. So we then start to find out where are the companies which have a higher portion of fuel expense. So typically tile manufacturing, typically your ceramics have a higher cost of gas or power in their thing. Then we try to find out that in India, if we have that competitive advantage, how we'll be able to export it and things like that. So a lot of systems have now been in place where the starting points are getting discovered, but we don't do a screen. We look at we just don't go and look at these financial screens and try to just find out stuff, because we believe that's not a moat anymore, that anyone can do, right? There are so many smart people in India now, that and everyone now has understood what returns people can make by being in the market. So running screens has become a very easy task, and I think that we should have certain advantages. So mehnat badh gayi hai. Every year what we are doing, we feel someone else is again started doing those things. So every year we have to find something new that we should do, because our moat is to find companies early, right? बिकॉज वो रिजल्ट आ गया उसका, उसके बाद ठीक है, वी आल्सो बिकम अ बिट मोर जेनरस इन पेइंग अप दीस डेज, बिकॉज कई बार क्या होता है, बहुत अच्छा बिजनेस होता है, यू नॉट बीन एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई, एडमिट योर मिस्टेक, ठीक है चलेगा, बट वो 100 का अगर 500 हो सकता है तो 200 में भी खराब नहीं है, राइट? मेरे को 100 में ही क्यों चाहिए वो वाला। हमने भी हमारा एटीट्यूड पिछले 2-3 साल में थोड़ा चेंज किया, क्योंकि वो आप देखो वैल्यूएशन ना इज अ गेम ऑफ लॉन्ग टर्म लॉन्जेटिविटी ऑल्सो। सो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में हमको लगता है जब लॉन्जेटिविटी बढ़ गई तो वैल्यूएशन हमको पुराने भाव पे नहीं मिल सकती, राइट? So we also have now started looking at companies which we were not looking earlier, but मान लो financials में कुछ बहुत बड़ा improvement हो गया and we started to look at, but most of the time we try to preempt what is going to happen with the business by not what is going to happen in the business, but whatever has happened in the business and now the numbers would come. और उसके लिए हम ये डेटाबेसेस करते रहते हैं, मिलते रहते हैं, अंडरस्टैंड करते रहते हैं। बहुत सारे चाइना का डेटा बाई इन्फो है या ऐसे सब से लॉगिन हमने ले रखे हैं, जिसका हम डेटा देखते रहते हैं या बात करते रहते हैं वहाँ के ट्रेडर से, बिकॉज आई बिलीव अगर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग समझना है तो चाइना मार्केट से इम्पोर्टेंट कोई दूसरा मार्केट नहीं है, ठीक है? सो वहां से काफी इन्फॉर्मेशन का हम लोग यूजेज करके भी ट्राई टू प्ले इट इन इंडिया।
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Second question will be.
And second question, apart from investing, yeah, it's very consuming job. So my wife always has this a problem that these days I take her along with the trips that I have, at least itna kar pata hu, I take her along wherever I'm visiting. But yes, I love playing cricket a lot. I don't like watching it, but if someone invites me to play cricket, I just love it. So that's my passion, and playing with the cricket ball, not the box cricket and things like that. So वो एक महीना मैं so January is the month which I dedicate to that. वहाँ पे 10-15 दिन में और कुछ नहीं करता हूँ, cricket खेलता हूँ.
Right, right.
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you. Great.
So next question is from CA Vipin Nagpal. So I just unmuted your line. You can ask your question. So you'll need to unmute from your end as well, from bottom left corner of the screen. I think since there is no audio, we'll move to the next one. So next question is from I can't read the name properly. So I've just given the permission to talk and ask a question. Shruti, I think, right?
Hello.
Yes.
Arvind ji, thank you for the deliberation.
Thank you so much.
And you look like the Virat Kohli of investing.
No, sir.
My question for you कि आपने जैसे बोला कि किसी कंपनी में अगर कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस के इश्यूज भी हैं, लेकिन अगर आपको वो कंपनी अच्छी लगती है तो वी कैन इन्वेस्ट इन इट. तो मैं भी ये प्रोसेस फॉलो करता हूँ. कैन यू टेल मी कि उन कंपनीज में अलोकेशन कब बढ़ाना चाहिए और कौन से ऐसे कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस के इश्यूज हैं जो टॉलरेबल बिल्कुल नहीं है? मतलब अगर वो कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस के इश्यूज हैं तो वी शुड गेट आउट ऑफ द कंपनी.
See, I guess अगर कोई प्रमोटर रेम्यूनरेशन ज्यादा ले रहा है ना, तो दैट्स नॉट अ कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस इशू. ठीक है, आई बिलीव वहां पे हमने कई बार देखा है कि those businesses then scale up, then as a percentage they go down. तो people need money, right? They are business families who given the blood, sweat, everything to the company, and if they are getting out something from the company as a remuneration that they want to take, in fact कुछ चोरी चकारी करने से अच्छा है सामने से बोल के रेम्यूनरेशन ले रहे हैं, तो बेटर ही है ना. एटलीस्ट पीपल नो व्हाट दे आर टेकिंग आउट. ठीक है, तो मेरे ख्याल से लोग ये बोलते हैं कि बहुत ज्यादा रेम्यूनरेशन ले रहे हैं, तो एक वो रेड फ्लैग है. हो सकता है शिवलिक बायोमेटल में भी लेते थे, बट देन व्हेन द बिजनेस ग्रोज, वो एज अ परसेंटेज इट गोज डाउन, राइट? बट व्हेनेवर people are trying to do something with their stock, and we have found that few people, और आपको पता चल जाता है, हमको पता है वो 10-15 ब्रोकर्स है जहां से हम कंफर्म कर लेते हैं उनके पास क्या स्टॉक की क्या डिलीवरी आती है. वैसा अगर कोई करने की कोशिश करता है टू प्ले विद देयर स्टॉक, इज समथिंग व्हिच वी डोंट then it's a perfect no for us, because that and वो चीजें भी मान लो कि पुरानी जनरेशन में कोई करता था, अब लोग आ गए और हमने उन ब्रोकर से कंफर्म किया पिछले 5-7 साल से ऐसा कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, then again we become comfortable. But anyone who's trying to take advantage of a minority shareholder, वैसा काम अगर कोई करता है ना, तो it's not something which we or it's something which people don't admit it, but large caps में भी वो काम बहुत ज्यादा होता है इंडिया में. हमको तो ये लगता है कि जस्ट बिकॉज मार्केट कैप छोटा है ना, तो लोग ज्यादा क्वेश्चंस ऐसे ही उठा देते हैं. सिमिलर चीजें हमने देखी यार लार्ज कैप्स में होती है और लोगों को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, और वहीं अगर कोई मिड कैप कंपनी वाला बेचारा कर ले या स्मॉल कैप वाला कर ले, तो इट्स समथिंग व्हिच दे बिकम अनटचेबल. सो आई गेस वी शुड नॉट हैव डिफरेंट स्टैंडर्ड्स फॉर डिफरेंट थिंग्स. Let's admit it that we are a young country, we are growing. कभी कभी कुछ चीजें जब वेल्थ छोटी होती है तो कुछ लोग not for the intention but because of security of their family at least कर लेते हैं, जो corporate governance parallels में इतनी proper नहीं है. But we've seen people change, and I've seen that same with our fraternity people, where we've seen some certain people not going the very right way when they were small, but now when they've become a bit at a repute level, they now have most appropriate ethical standards. तो कई बार ना वो एक कंफर्ट हो जाता है आपकी लाइफ में, जब वो आ जाता है ना, फिर बिजनेस ही आपका मेन बन जाता है. तो कई बार वो कंफर्ट क्रिएट करने के लिए कुछ चीजें कर लेते हैं लोग, एंड आई बिलीव वहां पे अगर आप एकदम ही वो 100% वैसा एथिकल चीज करना चाहते हो, तो बहुत सारी चीजें आपकी ऐसी चली जाएगी जो इन्वेस्टिंग वर्ल्ड में, आई गेस देन यू आर इन अ रॉन्ग प्रोफेशन. देन यू शुड बी इन अ प्रोफेशन वेयर 100% चीजें वैसी होती है. यहाँ पे तो फॉर श्योर वैसा नहीं होने वाला आपके साथ. तो मेरे को नहीं लगता है कि लोग जो ये क्लेम भी करते हैं, दे आर इग्नोरिंग दैट एवरीथिंग इज हैपनिंग till we achieve. So we are in a phase where things would get better let's admit that fact and let's try to embrace it, with the practicality rather than try to question that. तो मैं जहाँ पे भी ये देखता हूँ ना कि एटलीस्ट कहीं पे वो प्रमोटर, और ये हम उनके फ्रेंड सर्कल से, उनके कॉम्पिटिटर से, उनके आप समझ लो कि जो सप्लायर्स हैं वहां से फीडबैक लेने की ये कोशिश करते हैं, इनका व्यवहार कैसा है। वो इंडिया में ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है कि भाई किसी ने किसी से कोई गलत व्यवहार किया होता है ना, तो वो किसी से भी कर सकता है। अगर सप्लायर से किया है तो कल को दिन इन्वेस्टर से भी करेगा। तो बहुत बार हमको ये पता चलता है कि आदमी इतना अच्छा रेप्यूट रखता है अपने सर्कल के अंदर, अपने सारे सप्लायर्स के अंदर, उसकी इनफैक्ट रिस्पेक्ट है इतनी ज्यादा, और हमको लगता है यार ये पता नहीं ये कंपनी में ऐसा क्यों करता है। और कई बार जाके उनको मिलते हैं तो उनको पता ही नहीं होता है कि कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस का कोई उनका प्रॉब्लम भी हो गया है। मतलब दे डोंट इवन कंसिडर इट। कई बार उनसे ऐसी चीज हो जाती है जो उनको लगता है ठीक है, बट बिजनेस में ऐसा करना था, उनको कर लिया, और उनको ये पता ही नहीं है कि इट इज समथिंग दैट दे शुड हैव मे बी कंसिडर्ड फ्रॉम द लेंस ऑफ द कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस। So many times these things are blown out of proportion in small and mid cap. I'm not saying you should not have that lens. You should always have that, but then try to find the root cause and try to take a judgment of the character of the individual, rather than just focusing on what blatantly is looking as a financial transaction.
Thank you, Arvind, for the wonderful answer. And thank you, Ishmohit, for giving us an opportunity to meet such kind of investors who follow मतलब जो practical चीजें बताते हैं. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So next question we have from Sunil. So I think we'll take 5 to 6 more questions. So next question we have from Sunil. So Sunil, I've unmuted your line. You can ask your question. Right, Sunil, your line is unmuted. You can ask. I think you can ask your, if might have left. So just moving on to just moving on to the next question from Rohit. So Rohit, I've unmuted your line. You can ask your question.
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. So my question is little different. So you discussed in your presentation about 3 or 4 companies in which what did you saw in the business, met the management, understood the business, and also you mentioned few of the businesses in which you lost money. So if you can give me 1 or 2 examples or
ILFS Transport. I was so mad that I was holding ILFS Transport and thinking that it can manage the leverage, and we had to sell it at a 40-50% loss. Yeah, better that I sold it, because then it went to zero in fact. But the point is that I have made this mistake with leverage companies more. I have analyzed in the past that where we have taken a call on the business. The business was all right, but the leverage could have easily killed the business if I do some more due diligence. So that is where a company like ILFS Transport or a company called Titagar Wagons, if you might know Titagar Wagons,
yeah, TWL, yeah,
which is into wagon manufacturing, and I thought such is a great opportunity in India. Abhi to railway mein ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega. But then again, things don't happen. Leverage kills you sometimes. So yes, they've been so again, मैंने बोला ना कि 4 कंपनियों के पीछे एटलीस्ट 2 या 3 और कंपनियां होगी जो मैंने आज डिस्कस करी है, जो कि would have gone the other way. But the thing is that over the years, at least we found out why they've gone the other way. Leverage has been one thing. Second is sometimes over extrapolating things that ये US में होता है, ये यहाँ हुआ तो यहाँ पे भी हो जाएगा, rather than focusing more on data. So ये 2 या 3 चीजें हैं जो हम ट्राई करते हैं अवॉइड करना. Maybe we'll make lesser mistakes. Who knows? I mean, that's something which we can only hope. But yes, I have one thing that I have also done is that I have reduced my 100. पहले ऐसा होता था कि भाई कोई टीम वाला मेरे सामने बोल नहीं पाता था 2016 तक कि मैंने बोल दिया मतलब वो स्टॉक फाइनल है, हमको एलोकेट करना ही है. तो वो भी हमने बहुत रिड्यूस किया है. नाउ वी हैव एक्सेप्शनल पीपल हु हैव देयर ओन आइडियाज एंड आई जस्ट पुट फॉरवर्ड माय आइडिया and just I wait for them to come back after a month कि बताओ आप क्या सोचते हो इस बिजनेस के बारे में. तो वो उसने भी काफी बायस को रिड्यूस किया. तो जहाँ पे मैं बहुत बायस रहा हूँ वहां पे भी वी हैव डन अ मिस्टेक ऑफ मे बी मिस्ड अपॉर्चुनिटी. तो कई बार क्या होता है, हमको बस स्टॉक नीचे गया हुआ दिखता है, लेकिन कई बार वो मिस्ड अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं दिखती क्योंकि मैंने कोई स्टॉक ले लिया और वो सिर्फ 30% ही बढ़ा और हमारे पास किसी ने स्टॉक अच्छा एनालाइज किया तो वो 3x हो गया. and I would have maybe missed it because I was so biased with my stock picking. So I guess the past 4 or 5 years have been very rewarding to us in terms of the process changes that we've made, the kind of people who've joined the organization, and in a way it's wonderful to work with them because they have a similar mindset of maybe trying to go on field and getting the data points. So yes, there have been many examples. I guess on public forum कुछ ऐसी चीजें हम discuss भी नहीं कर सकते, तो इसलिए I'll not do with some companies because that be not appropriate. But yes, you take it with a pinch of salt कि मैंने 4 discuss किए हैं, तो maybe 2 या 3 उसके पीछे ऐसे गए होंगे कि जो that have not turned out well.
The question was only to understand what should we avoid. So I understood leverage is one.
लेवरेज,
which
बायस,
we cautious on.
एक्स्ट्रापोलेटिंग, ये 3 चीजें मुझे मिली है. बहुत ज्यादा एक्स्ट्रापोलेटिंग, बहुत ज्यादा फ्यूचर में देखना, नॉट फोकसिंग ऑन डेटा पॉइंट्स, लेवरेज, एंड थर्ड इज biasness, that you have your personal biases. So meeting more people and दोनों चीजों पे मैं अगेन ये बोलूंगा कि लेवरेज मतलब ये नहीं है कि अब मैं लेवरेज बिजनेसेस देखते ही नहीं. इनफैक्ट मैं तो ये बोलता हूँ कि अभी भी लोगों को ये मिथ है कि लेवरेज देखना ही नहीं चाहिए. आज भी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में बहुत ऐसे धंधे विद लेवरेज विद ग्रो, बट ओवर लेवरेज नहीं होना चाहिए. एक मैनेजेबल लेवरेज होना चाहिए. एंड मैंने देखा है बायस्ड इन्वेस्टर ने भी बहुत पैसा बनाया है. एज आई टोल्ड यू, एक बंदा है मेरा फ्रेंड है, 40% बालाजी माइंस में है, और उसने बायस भी होगा शायद, उसने बेचा नहीं, बट वो पैसा बन गया उसका. ठीक है, तो एवरीथिंग हैज हिज ओन प्रोज एंड कॉन्स. आपको ये देखना है आपको क्या सूट करता है. मेरे को ये 3 चीजें मिली है मेरे लिए.
Right.
True. Yeah, great. Thanks for the opportunity, Ishmohit and Arvind. It was fantastic, listening to you. I mean, you made my day in a way. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. So we'll take 5 more questions. So the next question is from Rishabh. So Rishabh, I've unmuted your line. You can ask a question.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
So actually my question is with one of the companies common between both of you, Pitti Engineering. Ishmohit also discussed this company with us and he raised few red flags in it. So if Arvind ji can elaborate what was his thesis and why he continued with the company.
See, Pitti, in fact, I guess I'm not very proficient to talk on it because we have not done a very big coverage on that. But Ishmohit, maybe you can share more. But what I see and observe the business is that from just being supplier of a commoditized you can say laminate, it has gone on to a service provider wherein it is providing many parts of the motor. So they've changed the business model, which is good. The new management is very they've proved their business, they're improving their volumes, they're improving their client base. So I guess the business is looking good, right? So they have certain consultancy expenses and something which they're paying more from the balance sheet, which is a bit uncomfortable. But then I guess the business is doing fantastic. And maybe Ishmohit, you can share your.
I think again it's a call between the business talking and basically some issues in the forensic department. So see, there are 2 approaches to this, which from what I've thought of is either you take a call on basically portfolio allocation, that you do not over allocate in these ideas because you know the risk. हमेशा अच्छा रहता है कि आपको risk हमेशा पता रहे. And second call is that if it doesn't meet your framework, then you completely avoid it. So these are the 2 approaches which I generally take. So I'll just give you an example. So when we invested in Deepak Nitrite, so last 5-6 years में related party transactions बहुत थी, right? But once we interacted with the distributors, once we understood कि phenol का landscape क्या कि why they are setting up this plant, because आदि जो companies India में phenol use कर रही है, working capital में ही पैसा फंसे रहते हैं because you're importing phenol. So at the end, it's a mix of both. Then you have to take a probabilistic call on your allocation, and sometimes these things also improve. आज जो annual report में क्या पता अगले साल annual report में ना हो, right? Because promoters also understand second generation ki they also look at market caps ki if we stop pilfering 5-10 crores, it gives us 200-300 crores of market cap. So I think it is something that keeps evolving because India mein abhi capital markets are still new, right? It's just been 2-3 decades, and actually what I will say ki post 2010 only a lot of these small and mid cap companies जो second generations आ रही हैं business में, जो बाहर का देख के आ रहे हैं कि कैसे market cap बनता है. So I think that leeway we have to give. So we need to have a probabilistic mindset with these things. So this is just my take with the thing.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Next question we have from Pankaj Kumar. So I've unmuted your line. You can ask your question, Pankaj.
Hi, so it was a fantastic presentation. So my question is, when Arvind, when you said that spinning is only a 2 years play, why do you say so when India has a competitive advantage in this space? And also I wanted to ask how long the textile competitive advantage is going to remain, considering the fact that it is because of the fact that there is a ban, US has banned China. I think it is because of, primarily because of that, right? So how long it is going to be there?
Correct. So again, I will clarify that fact. Again, what you said is perfect, that I'm no one to judge whether it will be a 2 years play or 5. We are playing it for 2 more years because we've seen in the past that, you know, spinning the capex is not very difficult to bring. Having said that, I also have the firm belief, and in steel and spinning both, people believe that, you know, again वो cycle है, केपेक्स करते हैं लोग, वापस से रियलाइजेशन नीचे आ जाते हैं, रिस्क बढ़ जाता है बैलेंस शीट में, इनको आपको टाइम करके निकल जाना चाहिए. दिस टाइम इट इज डिफिकल्ट, डिफरेंट, बिकॉज आपकी मैक्सिमम सप्लाई इंडिया नहीं लाता था स्टील में, चाइना लाता था, एंड दैट इज गोइंग आउट ऑफ द मार्केट. ठीक है, वो बोल रहा है कि आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू एक्सपैंड. इंडिया में बैलेंस शीट सबकी फ्रैक्चर हो गई, इंडिया में 4-5 ही कंपनियां बची है, वही एक्सपैंड कर सकते हैं. सो हमारा बेस इतना छोटा, उसमें हम कितना ही एक्सपैंड कर ले, the way the demand dynamics and supply dynamics used to behave in the previous decade, it will not behave in this decade. तो ये बोलना कि जो cyclicality स्टील में आज से पिछले डेकेड में थी चाइना के डोमिनेंस की वजह से, वो उतनी हाई साइकिल हम नहीं देखने वाले, and that is reflected in the prices अभी, and that will in fact be reflected whenever these people go for expansion also. So what I'll say is definitely their cycle is not going to be that volatile even in spinning. बट स्पिनिंग में क्या है, हमारे पास बेस अच्छा होने की वजह से ही मेरे को थोड़ा रिस्क ज्यादा लगता है कि इनके पास पैसा बहुत आ गया और उन्होंने पिछले 1-1.5 साल में स्पिनर्स ने इतना पैसा कमाया है. ऑलरेडी यू आर सीइंग एक्सपेंशंस बीइंग अनाउंस्ड. नितिन फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर आपको पता हो, नितिन स्पिनर्स हैज अनाउंस्ड एक्सपेंशन. ठीक है, सो मैं प्ले नहीं करना चाहता हूं 2 साल के बाद, बिकॉज आई डोंट नो फिर क्या होगा. आने वाला एक्सपेंशन केपेक्स भी मार्केट में एब्जॉर्ब हो जाएगा, बिकॉज इंडिया के पास नेचुरल एडवांटेज है. व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज परफेक्टली वेल. चाइना हैज द जिंजियांग प्रोविंस जहां से बैन किया है यूएस ने. मे बी द बिल वुड बी पास्ड इन यूरोप और व्हाटएवर. नहीं तो भी नेचुरली एंड प्रोडक्ट, अगर एपरल ज्यादा इंडिया से जाता है या कॉटन टेक्सटाइल शीट्स इंडिया से ज्यादा जाती है होम टेक्सटाइल में, तो आपको स्पिनिंग बेस यहाँ पे चाहिए. आई एम नॉट डिबेटिंग दैट फैक्ट, बट मैं फिर क्या है कि आई एम सेइंग कि एपरल मेरे को 10 साल का एक साइकिल लगता है, तो मैं वहां पे ज्यादा आई वांट टू पोजीशन माय सेल्फ. तो आई वुड वांट टू प्ले दैट फॉर अ लॉन्गर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, बिकॉज अप्रैल हमने देखा है जहां पे भी गया है ना, वहां पे लंबा टिका है. वहां पे ब्रांड्स के साथ आपका डायरेक्ट एसोसिएशन होता है ना. आपको H&M या गैप या ये सब बोलते हैं आप मेरे लिए गारमेंट बनाओ. स्पिनिंग में वो नहीं होता है ना कि मेरे को ब्रांड आके बोल रहा है कि आप मेरे लिए कॉटन का यान बनाओ. तो वो डिफरेंस है दोनों के बिजनेस मॉडल्स के. So that is where I'm more comfortable with MNCs giving B2B business in apparels to India and home textiles to India. And spinning is a beneficiary for the medium term for sure. Hence, it will have fantastic return ratios, fantastic growth. But 2 साल के बाद जब बहुत ज्यादा पैसा इनके पास हो जाएगा और एक नेक्स्ट टाइम के राउंड ऑफ केपेक्स के लिए लोग रेडी हो जाएंगे, that's when I want to not take a view. मतलब क्योंकि उसके बाद फिर कुछ भी हो सकता है. आई डोंट नो, उस समय आप कॉल लो तो बेटर है. rather than taking a 10 years call on spinner, you should take 2 years call.
Right. So 10 years call on textile or so the garment manufacturer, that is also difficult, isn't it? In the last 10 years was very difficult for them, right?
We have lost market share last 10 years. ठीक है, तो जब हमने ये रिपोर्ट बनाई पिछले साल, तो लोग हमको बोल रहे थे कि यार where is the data to confirm, और क्यों, why do you feel? But if you again look at last 10 years, हमने मार्केट किसको लूज किया? बांग्लादेश को लूज किया, वियतनाम को लूज किया. ठीक है, वियतनाम में ऑलरेडी द चर्न अवे टू बांग्लादेश है, तो वियतनाम से मार्केट ऑलरेडी बांग्लादेश थोड़ा थोड़ा शिफ्ट हो रहा था. रीजन बीइंग वियतनाम के वेजेस ऑलरेडी आर वेरी हाई. They have gone higher, and now a lot of basic textile products you cannot get manufactured from Vietnam. It is not competitive at all. That meant Bangladesh became overburdened with orders. तो आप समझो बांग्लादेश में भी जहां पे आपके पास दूसरा कोई भी सेटअप नहीं है, सिर्फ और सिर्फ apparel है, तो do you believe an H&M kind of guy, some SKUs, they were 90% dependent on Bangladesh. That was our starting point to believe that there is a gap. बांग्लादेश 140 में बनाता है, हम 165 में बनाते हैं आज भी घर में. That is a fact. I'm not stating that हम लोग कुछ बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंट कर देंगे या हम लोग उससे कॉम्पिटिटिव हो जाएंगे, बट केमिकल्स में भी ऐसा था, बहुत सारी जगह पे हमारा कॉस्ट ज्यादा ही था. बट होता क्या है, बिकॉज सर्टेन ग्लोबल peers start to take decisions based on risk parameters more than pricing, तब वो थोड़ा थोड़ा दिखना चालू होता है. फर्स्ट सेट ऑफ न्यूज दैट वी हर्ड इज दैट डिज्नी केम आउट विद अ पॉलिसी कि अगर आपको चाइल्ड गारमेंट बनाना है, just I guess 7-8 months ago, you cannot make it from Bangladesh or else I'll not give my license of the character. Now for a child garment, Disney characters are very important. अगर डिज्नी आपको कैरेक्टर ही नहीं देगा तो आप सेल ही चली जाएगी ना. अच्छा, इसने ऐसा क्यों किया? क्योंकि वो बोले बांग्लादेश में आई एम नॉट श्योर कितने चाइल्ड लेबर है. तो for a child garment, you're making a factory can have child labor is a big corporate big governance issues, right? So big ESG issue. तो वो ज्यादा हावी हो गया है ब्रांड्स के माइंड पे. वो वापस से रिवर्स किया डिज्नी ने, बिकॉज देयर वाज नो वे पॉसिबल कि पूरा सप्लाई इंडिया से जाता है. ठीक है, बट द पॉइंट इज दैट दीज थिंग्स, एंड व्हेन वी विजिटिंग दीज एपरल गाइस, यू लुक एट द नंबर्स ऑफ गोकुलदास एक्सपोर्ट, कहां से ऐसी ग्रोथ आ रही है. सप्लाई चेन इशू के बियॉन्ड भी बहुत सारे ब्रांड्स वो लोग विन कर रहे हैं, बहुत सारा बिजनेस वो लोग विन कर रहे हैं अवे फ्रॉम द अदर कंट्रीज. तो there are facts which are changing on ground regarding the demand for apparels. People or brands are changing their mindset, but it will take time for these things to reflect. And वो confidence हमको कई बार justify बहुत हमको भी करना पड़ा investors को. But I have my friend who's at a very high senior position in a global giant which is into garmenting. Is the number one you can say garmenting company of the world, and they in fact are sourcing for the Zaras and H&Ms of the world, and they based out of Hong Kong. और वो पूरा उनका पूरा चेन है, चाइना से आपका कपड़ा लिया, आपने बांग्लादेश में स्टिच कराया या वियतनाम में स्टिच कराया या मान लो कि टर्की से स्टिच कराया और भेज दिया. They are considering India in a very big way. Okay, now it will make sense to have some arrangements in India, right? So these are certain insights which makes us believe that future can and the base is so small कि इसमें growth rate आएगा ना. तो and in fact there were companies like Shahi Export is not listed, but Shahi already export कर रहा था ना बड़े level पे, right? If you look at Shahi Exports की journey आप देखो, it's not listed. तो वो सोनम कपूर husband I guess Ahuja's, they're the promoters of Shahi Exports, and they are growing in the past decade also when things were not going their way, right? And having a duty disadvantage, still we are seeing SP kind of guy being very gung-ho about the business. So we are saying that duty disadvantage permanent to nahi hai na. So there are things possible in the coming 3-4 years which makes us sanguine about this thing.
Right. Thanks a lot for your detailed answer. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll just take the last question from Amit Desai. So Amit is also a businessman, and he also looked at textile space. So इन्होंने हमें email और WhatsApp भी करी थी. So he's in touch with all the promoters as well. So I'll just give him permission to talk. So Amit, your line is unmuted.
Amit made us meet Mr. Sundarajan, yeah.
Right.
Ishmohit, thanks for bringing. Hello, Arvind Bhai. Ishmohit, thanks for bringing Arvind Bhai. Arvind Bhai is more of a friend now. I have not known him for too long. I have known him for only about a year, and we have met a few times already, and it's always been a pleasure meeting him. And I was happy to organize the Zoom call with.
He's always hosted me in his lounge. His building has a lounge where you can see the Antilla from there, right? It's a fantastic place. So I always love. So I'll make more chances to visit him.
So I was happy to arrange a Zoom call for Arvind Bhai with one of the company's top managements who I know very well, and also arrange his factory visit to that factory. And Ishmohit, let me tell you, on the Zoom call, I was very much present, and I've seen Arvind Bhai grilling the top management on certain things. And, and, and that was the first Zoom call I had arranged for him. And, and it was the first time I saw him, obviously it was the first time I saw him grilling the management without getting into any names, why one, a very big institution had invested and why they had gotten out. And the management absolutely had no choice but to give him the answers because he had done his homework. So I can tell you from first-hand experience that he really gets into the details of the companies. And the other thing I can tell you is whenever we speak, most of the time he's not in Surat. He's visiting factories, he's meeting promoters. He's invited me to a few of the factory visits, but one of these days I'll take him up on the offer, so he's absolutely a scuttlebutt person, and gets down to the nitty-gritties of the company before making the call of investing or not to invest, and we've had and I've had discussions with him whenever we have met, generally about the markets, about some companies, and his knowledge about those companies is absolutely fantastic. And it's always been a pleasure discussing markets and companies with him.
It's always been a pleasure, sir. You are the people who actually introduced us to, a lot of these circles where we were looking for. In fact, we were looking for SP for so long, and that's something which is you made that possible.
And of course you covered SP completely, Arvind Bhai. Just one more thing, SP to you already know this. Maybe you said it and I did not hear it. But the other thing about SP Apparels is that 90% of their exports is to UK.
UK, correct.
Okay, and whereas Gokuldas, I think their biggest market is the US.
Correct.
And if FTA comes through, and which is, it's a high probability event, nobody knows whether it will come through or not, because these talks have been going on for many years, but somehow it has never happened. Correct. But if it does come through, and chances are higher that it will come through now because UK is no longer part of the EU.
Correct.
And if that happens, then companies like SP, whose main market is the UK, you can see the earnings growth going up even more.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so anyways, so look forward to seeing you in Bombay soon. I hope you make the trip again soon, and we'll catch up.
Surely,
and Arvind Bhai, really good presentation.
Thank you so much, Amit Bhai.
Yeah. And Ishmohit, well done. You've been bringing such good speakers on the platform, and you got another very good speaker today. Well done, and keep going.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Great. I think with this, I think it's been more than 2 hours of presentation. So I'll just open the chat box. Let's thank Arvind sir for the presentation, and let's just drop wow or an amazing in the chat box below. So thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you so much for presenting for the SOIC tribe. And recording will be uploaded within 24 hours. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Ishmohit, for inviting me, and there were wonderful questions that I loved. The homework that your tribe members have done, and I believe you're doing a wonderful job. Please keep on doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Arvind sir also has like 3 small cases, and I think just for idea generation as well, because he's doing a lot of scuttlebutt. So one can actually just look at them for idea generation, because if you're doing so much scuttlebutt with a lot of network, then that gives you a leg up over the market, right? Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.